Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode here of the Damage Report. Not just any day, though, it's Big News Wednesday. Potentially too big. I honestly don't even know how this is gonna go. I feel very overwhelmed. Thank God I have Jayar Jackson with me. Jayar, how's it going?
What's going on? Apparently I'm doing something wrong already.
Yeah. What have you done? What have you done to Big News Wednesday? But no, we're gonna make it work.
Excellent. How you guys doing? What's up, Wednesdays?
I'm good. Oh yeah, well, we didn't talk before. Anyway, hello everyone. So Big News Wednesday is coming at you. We're eventually, by the end of the show, we'll be ready to start this show. But we have a lot of news that we're gonna be going through the course of the next 90 minutes, including a debate about yesterday's moves on the infrastructure bills. How significant are they? How scared should we be? A little bit of an update on the effects of the Pfizer vaccine being approved. What are companies now doing as a result of that? We've got a few interesting developments there. An awful invocation of the stand your ground defense. I understand there's no good ones, but this seems particularly egregious. OnlyFans backtracks, we got Erik Prince, we got a whole bunch of stuff. It's gonna be a lot of fun, you're not gonna wanna go anywhere. And while you're not going anywhere, you should also hit the like button and show stream so people know that we're live. And if you wanna send us any comments, tweets, super chats, all that, we'll respond. As we go, with that, Jayar, you're back. I didn't even realize that you left, but I'm glad that you're here.
I had left because things fell apart here. Did I mention that I'm ready to go back in the studio? Did I mention that yet?
You did. You understand that, like, if this wave takes as long to go away as the last one, I mean, are you getting in here in 6 months? I don't know. I hate it. Anyway,
I hate it.
We'll talk about that. I'm probably not gonna get to go to Gen Con. No one has suffered more than me so far through all of this.
I'm gonna have to look up my tickets for Gen Con. I don't know what to do with them anymore because I was dead set on going to Gen Con. Because I live for Gen Con.
You joke, but what you don't understand is that most of the time I spend at Gen Con is in a football stadium. So now, yes, it's playing board games, but it's playing board games on the field of a football stadium. Anyway, okay. So with that, we'll talk more about football stadiums and board games later. But Jayar, why don't we get this news party started? This politics party started.
Let's do it.
Yesterday, the Democrats in the House successfully approved a $3.5 trillion budget blueprint that will eventually lead to legislation being written, a reconciliation process being initiated. This is not that, but this does pave the way for that. Now, this could have fallen apart because the House has been divided. You have, all the Democrats, and then you have a whole bunch of progressives, and then you have the even more conservative Democrats who are threatening to destroy the entire process. But thankfully that didn't happen. Passage came only after leaders stamped out a revolt among conservative-leaning Democrats who withheld their votes until they extracted a promise to vote on the infrastructure bill by September 27th. That, what they're talking about there, is not the reconciliation bill, that's the bipartisan bill. So that will be voted on in about 1 month, give or take a couple of days. The breakthrough came after a pressure campaign mounted by the White House, outside progressive groups, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi. That is a weird alliance, but they made it work. Who haggled and cajoled her way to unanimous Democratic support for a measure that had been stalled mere hours before. The vote was 220 to 212 on party lines to approve the budget plan and allow future votes on both the infrastructure bill and a voting rights measure that the House passed soon afterward. So here is where it gets spicy, Jayar. What does it mean that this happened? What does it mean that they secured a vote on the infrastructure bill by September 27th? Well, it turns out what it means really seems to depend on who you ask, because Representative Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey and 8 other, the New York Times says moderates, but you know what I think about that, who had conditioned their votes for the budget on a deadline for action on infrastructure, boasted that their group had succeeded in making sure that the bipartisan bill would, quote, receive standalone consideration, fully delinked and on its own merits. All that means is we want to destroy the reconciliation package, but we can't do that if they're linked. So please delink them so that we can have everything we want and destroy everything that you want. And he says, huzzah, we made it happen. But if you talk to the progressives, they don't necessarily think so. Pramila Jayapal says, as our members have made clear for 3 months, the two are integrally tied together, and we will only vote for the infrastructure bill after passing the reconciliation bill. And furthermore, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, our position remains unchanged. We'll only vote for the infrastructure bill when the House passes a reconciliation package that delivers on overdue promises like lowering drug prices, fighting climate change, supporting childcare, and providing vision and dental care to seniors. So, Jayar, they very much disagree. What do you think?
This entire thing with this infrastructure, these bills, infrastructure bills, the reconciliation versus the bipartisan one, the House one versus the Senate one versus the one that can go to all of them, and then Biden's gonna sign, and then Manchin's on board for it, and Kristen Sinema's gonna be okay with, and now new guy trying to get his name in the mix. Oppenheimer, what's his name? Doesn't matter.
The thing is, Oppenheimer had a different terrible effect on the world, but anyway.
People, all these politicians are politicking. They're trying to get their names in certain positions to think that they're gonna boost themselves. Somehow, the Joe Manchin thing is catching on. The Joe Manchin approach is catching on. So I'm not saying that they weren't on this before. They're perfectly fine, moderate, conservative Democrats from before. Problem is they somehow think that now I can voice this higher and start pushing back on some opposition. Hey, maybe it'll work for me too, because maybe I can make a name for myself. It's turned all this into the same argument every week that we have about this, just with different players in a different situation and closer to it than further from it. Everybody's playing the game.
But we are closer to it. Like, this is another hurdle. This had to happen. You're not satisfied?
I'm just, the thing is, every time it's brought up, it's a different player, different position, but the same thing happening. Oh, we're gonna hold this up because we don't think that it's supposed to go right that way. Oh yeah, but we're not gonna hold up because we want to make sure we have this voted on first. And then after they actually didn't get anything done, this is why I know this is what it is. After not getting it done, they're saying victory. You didn't do anything, bro. You didn't do anything. All you did was say you're.
Or did they? Or did they get everything they wanted? Have we totally been screwed? Is the knife in our back, but we don't even know it? That's what they say.
Yeah.
And a lot of it seems to come down to the definition of the word is. I'm kidding, that's a 90s thing. The definition of the word consideration. So what does it mean that the bipartisan bill will receive consideration? Does that mean that it will be voted on? If you ask Josh Gottheimer, yes. Okay, that's not literally what it means. It could mean that the process begins by the 27th. The consideration could be discussion in the caucus. It could be discussion live on the floor. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will be voted on. Now, I say all of this because I like that, at least it feels like right now those conservative Dems are being screwed over, and that's good. I like that. I enjoy that. I draw strength from that. But that does not mean that we will not be totally screwed over. And this is just one of the ways we could be screwed over. Again, that $3.5 trillion bill could end up being something much smaller. I don't know. But as of right now, I'm not too worried by what I'm seeing. So just let me walk you through a couple more little steps, a couple more reactions to this. AOC was reported to say that dozens and dozens and dozens of GOP votes will be needed to offset lost progressive support for infrastructure if it's voted on before reconciliation. She doubts that that'll happen, saying they can't even get a critical mass of people to say the election was legitimate, which is a good point. So, in response to the news that the vote was on party lines, that all of those conservative Democrats voted for it, Ilhan Omar just responded with this classic Oprah gif, which I very much enjoyed, where she's like, yeah, no, they all voted for it, which is good. Now, why did they vote for it? We've talked a little bit about this earlier, this week, but they've been really receiving a lot of pressure from Nancy Pelosi, from progressives, from groups like the Justice Democrats, which are running ads in their districts, from people like Jessica Cisneros, who are running against some of the 9, or one of the 9, in this case, Henry Cuellar. And even like the way they thought, no, we're gonna be cool. We're gonna be like the power brokers. But it turns out now, according to Greg Sargent in the Washington Post, they're known in the caucus as the sabotage squad, which is not squad goals. That's not what you want, actually. And like there's talk about like I believe it's the DCCC cutting them off when it comes to funding for their reelection campaign. So again, who knows what'll happen, but I don't know. So far, I like it.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like, they're gonna gain. You said you gain your strength from from the way this is all breaking down and how this is going toward badly for them, right? But they gain their strength from money that they're going to get from this, in particular, and potential political positioning and ways they can get reelected. Again, it's the same thing. They're just trying to get back in office or make a name for themselves. So the Chamber of Commerce going after these guys. There's also centrist groups and Republican groups that are paying them and congratulating them for all this stuff. They're putting out ads calling them real life heroes. What did they do? This is where the motivation comes in. Anytime people say, so does this politician not know what he's doing? Or is he just gaming the system in a way? It's always the question of where their level of knowledge is. Their knowledge is strictly based in being labeled by this group, ironically called No Labels. They have a whole ad out, the 6-figure campaign ad out, talking about all these guys and how they're real life heroes. For doing what? For doing what?
For not sabotaging literally everything the Democrats want to accomplish, I guess. I guess you're a hero. You're basically Iron Man. But anyway, yeah, look, we're gonna keep watching it. We don't really know. It's still the Democrats. It's still America. It's still 2021. That's 3 good reasons to believe nothing good will ever happen. But so far,
well, the third leg of it also is you got, again, Joe Manchin, leader of this type of a Democrat, is congratulating them on this. Again, he's like, it's a terrible message that they're sending by trying to hold this bipartisan bill hostage. So they're gaining, again, third time, they're gaining their strength also from this guy. They're like, oh, he's gonna endorse and make sure they know, hey, you're on the right track, fellas. This is working out for me. Do it the same way. I'm never confident is this gonna be shake out in a good way. I'm never confident in that, because as this keeps building and now they have this small coalition of even though they're being labeled the sabotage squad, they don't care. And eventually the real people who are trying to help out Americans always are the ones who fold. I'm completely worried about that part happening.
Look, the only thing you have backing up your argument is every experience we've ever had in our lives. That's it. You take that away and you are on shaky ground, sir. Anyway,
I like your optimism. I enjoy your optimism. I hope I'm wrong.
I'm just responding to the past. I'm
John,
looking back.
I mean, the fact that you said Joe Manchin's gonna vote suddenly for the reconciliation bill, it doesn't mean that.
Wait, what? No, don't clip that out. Bart, take your finger off the trigger. Anyway, okay, we're gonna take our first break. We've been getting a lot of response from the audience. I want to go to some of those, but we've got more news coming up, including the FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine. That's what Fox has been asking for, and so they must have responded positively, right? We'll dive into it after this. Okay, everybody, let's see. Trek just said, I heard the idea that the House Democrats should hold the infrastructure bill hostage for the voting rights bill. Yeah, we'll see. I like that. I also saw someone saying that Republicans love to defund states for not like walking around kicking every immigrant in the balls or whatever. Why doesn't he defund states that pass these bills that like shred voting rights? It's not a bad idea. Even if it doesn't end up working, show the people that you're fighting for them. Okay, Jason, pronounced Jason, says, Jayar, you need to get your boy John in check. He is strong arming a lady named Leslie for money. JK loved the show. I am very much not doing that.
Wow.
Leslie is a great viewer of the show who sent in a comment saying she would love to financially support the program, but she's 79 and on a fixed income. And I said, you never have to give us any money whatsoever. You're still very much a part of everything. And so a bunch of people sent in super chats saying it was for her. I am not Stewie. I'm not beating up Brian. I'm not saying where's my money. My favorite part of that show. Anyway, Moore says, and I apologize if that's mispronounced, Moore, says, my vaccine appointment got moved up by a month. So now I'm getting my second dose this Sunday instead of having to wait until the end of September. As a bonus, this means I'll be able to go with my parents to visit my oldest brother in Poland. That's awesome good news. Look at that, good news Wednesdays.
What do you know?
Moore sent in a big super chat with that message. Thank you so much, much appreciated. Varden upgraded their membership to tier 3, getting access to not only the top 10 list, but also our monthly Q&A, which should be up on the program. We did it on Monday of this week. Over on Twitch, thank you, Blue Tech, for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Very nice of you. We have some comments here. Let's see. Terry Berry says, DJ80, I totally understand why people take those jobs. Been there, done that. But John was saying the ads were showing people who preferred working those jobs that don't treat them well. Oh, I think that was a leftover from our talk about Prop 22. Yes, and the sort of like complete like making up a position of these gig workers by companies like Uber and Lyft. Let's see. Barden said, I send super chats too close to your breaks every time. Say I am the Dragon Daddy and own it. No, but thank you for the super chat. Okay, let's see. I had a couple of things that I'm now having a time finding. Anyway, Osborne said, trying a new drink tonight. And so we're gonna evaluate this, Jayar. That I will also make if I watch Happy Half Hour tonight. A Danny Boy gin tonic, but you replace the tonic water with milk chocolate. Pretty tasty. I just have to find the right mixture so that you also taste the gin. Not quite there yet.
So wait, so a gin and tonic, but without the tonic, and replace it with chocolate milk.
With, I think, chocolate milk or hot chocolate. I don't know.
Well, we need to see the origins of this idea, like, why? Because then, like, people sometimes put chocolates and coffees in alcohol, but it has to be the right one.
I don't know about gin, like a floral chocolate thing, but I do know what the garnish should be. One of those little steaks with a toasted marshmallow. That would be good. Okay, in response to my optimism, I guess, and again, it's not optimism.
Oh yeah.
Kimberly Locke on YouTube sent in a comment saying, "Oh John, you sweet summer child." Timison said, "I enjoy Ilhan Omar's meme game. It was subtle. I liked it." Vanessa Maldonado said, Oppenheimer helped create the nukes. Gottheimer's trying to nuke the reconciliation bill. Dun-dun-dun. Thanks. Snuggles encourages people in all caps to get the vaccine now. I agree. And we'll be talking more about that in just a few. Oh, TOT Engage, resubscribe for 14 months. My kid finally got the shot. Be happier. Thank you. Glad for that. More for this. Okay, everybody, let's, before we jump back into the news, I do wanna let you know, we polled you yesterday on the program after discussing some of the controversy over the Jeopardy potential new hosts. So we asked you at TOT.com/polls who should be the next host of Jeopardy, and overwhelmingly, with more than 60% of the vote, you all said LeVar Burton should be the new host. Now, down at 20.5%, Ben Mankiewicz is a healthy, respectable second place, considering he wasn't on Star Trek. I think he did pretty well. Mayim Bialik is at a 12.5%, and Laura Coates, despite getting the nod apparently from Trebek himself, not getting a lot of support there. Mayim Bialik's numbers might be a little bit higher, except we did talk about some of her commentary about vaccines. And also about C-sections. She said a lot of stuff over the years. Anyway, okay, well, thank you everybody who voted at TOT.com/polls, much appreciated. Also wanna let you know that as always, Indisputable will be coming up right after this program. So you can watch it on Twitch or at youtube.com/indisputablety. Dr. Rashad Rishi will be joined by Dina Dahl, and there will be a debate with Ashley St. Clair. So should be a lot of fun. Definitely check that out. And with that, why don't we jump into this? We're gonna go directly to this video.
And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the FDA is going to give full approval to the Pfizer vaccine. Do you believe the timing is curious? Warp speed, you break it down. It's one of the president's finest accomplishments. He got rid of all the paperwork and all the bureaucracy that would have stopped this vaccine.
Okay, so what you saw there was a tiny little snippet from an awesome back and forth that the Daily Show put together of how is it a good thing to rush through bureaucracy? Well, it turns out it very much depends on which president is doing it, because they had examples from virtually everyone at Fox saying it's awesome, they streamlined it. Wait, very suspicious that the FDA all of a sudden approved this after an additional 9 months of research. Very highly suspicious. So anyway, that comparison is available at the Daily Show if you'd like to see those videos. But I want to contrast this directly with the news that the FDA authorized the Pfizer vaccine. So we've had about half a week now. It's objectively good news. They had something like 44,000 participants that were studied across multiple different continents. So a lot of strong evidence that this is a safe vaccine. And it's not safe getting COVID. So you would think this is good news. But according to Fox, not so much. So let's run through some of their individuals. Tucker Carlson didn't even mention the FDA news, but on his program, he did find time to discuss HBO host Bill Maher's rant about not wanting to take a vaccine booster shot. So what do you know? Bill Maher doing things that get him some cred from the right. Weird. Anyway, Jesse Waters said today the FDA approved Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. But for Waters, this was bad news. He said opening the door for, you guessed it, more mandates. He warned that now employees are on the risk of being fired for refusing to get vaxxed and said that this might hurt the economic recovery. So I thought it was gonna be good news that there's more evidence that this is totally safe. But for him, that wasn't even worth a mention. It's just bad news because now more people will do mandates. But again, Jesse, mandates for what? For a demonstrated safe vaccine, which you still have to have a problem with because that's where your bread is buttered. You don't have a reason for it, but you do have to pretend that you still have a big problem with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna have more of this, Jayar. What do you think?
Well, as I wish I had said it out loud before it happened, because as the FDA approval was going to be coming, because that was one of the main, I don't want to call it excuses, but reasons that many unvaccinated folks were still using as why they're not going to get vaccinated. Well, this is a non-FDA approved vaccine. You demand to put something in my body that the FDA is not approved, because I trust the FDA approving vaccines. And if they don't approve it, I don't trust it. I was like, wait until they approve it, then it's gonna be the FDA cannot be trusted to approve vaccines. What are we gonna now do? Trust the FDA? Because the argument has to shift. So as more and more of your reasons get eliminated by facts and research and approvals, you have to shift the reasons why you're not doing it. And fine, but from the beginning, just be honest and say, I don't wanna do it. I'm afraid. I've been convinced of something else. It doesn't fall along party lines. President Trump isn't here anymore, so now I'm mad about it. Whatever your reason is, at least say it, at least be honest, because your reasons are based in things that can eventually be disproven or can be approved in this case. So now the next step is gonna be, well, I just don't trust what they're doing here because the Biden administration obviously paid off the FDA to do such a thing. It's coming.
Obviously. The same FDA that did apparently what Trump wanted, and that was so good that was one of the best things he did during his presidency. But Jayar, you're right. They have to just be like, we're gonna put the camera on you, we're gonna stick a microphone in your face, and you be frustrated by this. Do I need to have a reason why I'm frustrated? No. Just be frustrated. Don't say anything. Do less. And so we're gonna have examples of that. Dana Loesch was on with Jesse Waters. She argued that full authorization, quote, doesn't change the fact that there are people who have questions. And she lashed out at vaccine bullies trying to smear people who have questions as being anti-vax. Well, I will ask her what I've been asking Fox for months now. What questions do you have? Is it possible that those questions might have been answered by the multi-continent 44,000 person strong study that the FDA analyzed in authorizing this? Do you think that maybe the FDA asked some questions? But no, Dana Loesch, she doesn't have a specific concern. She just has to be concerned. And so she keeps it nice and vague, and she's not the only one. Jesse Waters says, you're not allowed to ask questions anymore, Dana. That's clear. Questions are dangerous. Jesse Waters, ask your question if you have one. What question do you have? You're a host on a show for a network that has billions of dollars. You can have literally anyone you want on your program to answer your questions for you, but first you would have to come up with one. Maybe that's too tall of an order. Sean Hannity addressed the FDA approval and warning that now they're gonna mandate employers to force people to take the vaccine, even if your doctor says don't get it. He's not saying anything. He's just saying maybe your doctor doesn't want it. Why? Why is the doctor telling all these people not to get the vaccine? Is that a thing that's happening? Have you brought on doctors to say why that's no? You don't have a concern. You're just worried about people being mandated to get a vaccine that's been proven to be safe.
He's not even worried about that because Fox News does that. But moving on.
Exactly. Let's see. Laura Ingram says the FDA approved the COVID vaccine today. I know you're shocked. And of course, President Biden is using it as justification to take away your rights. Well, I don't know. They analyzed it. Why is that not a great thing for Biden in the same way that Project Warp Speed was a great thing for Trump? Is it not for any good reason? It's just ideological? Am I getting close, Laura? Because you loved it before, it was great before.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to matter. Okay, so also with Sean Hannity talking about the approval and now they're gonna make you do this. They've been saying this since beforehand. If you throw enough of these conspiracy theories and doubts to what has to happen to people who don't realize what has to happen, because the FDA is gonna analyze this and either prove it or not. And from the loads and loads of people that have gotten the vaccine already, we kind of saw this coming. That's also what I think it was Delta, maybe United Airlines put forward something at the beginning of August that said, hey, when this FDA approval goes down, it's gonna become a mandate. They knew it because they knew it was gonna go that direction. So just the same way that United Airlines knew that this was gonna happen, also Sean Hannity's and Laura Ingrams of the world knew this was gonna happen. So they, instead of putting forward a directive like, we're gonna eventually mandate this for employees, they put forward some talking points saying, wait until they start mandating this. And of course they're gonna start mandating it for employees because the FDA just approved it. We knew it was gonna happen. It's just a matter of which way you wanna direct your audience to think negatively or positively about it.
Yeah, it's so see-through. None of, like, I just don't, like, imagine if we covered climate change constantly, hours every day, and we talked about why it's a bad thing that the climate is changing, and we never, ever gave examples of why. We never showed you any footage. There was no extreme weather events. It's not getting hotter. We just said we hate carbon and never backed it up with anything. Wouldn't you stop watching at some point? But they've been doing this for month after month, and they're doing just fine. Wouldn't you expect to see a flood at some point? Give me a little fire, some like really dry ground, a little bit of dry dirt, a little bit of sand, some sort of prop. I don't know. They don't expect it. They don't need anything.
John, it snows in December. It snows in December. Come on, bro.
That's true. If the snow exists, you must acquit, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna go to some of the effects of this now. I know it was a very abrupt transition. I apologize for that. In the wake of the full FDA authorization of the Pfizer vaccine, companies that have for a long time said they would do this are now instituting new mandates of a variety of different forms. And there's gonna be a lot of these, but we wanna jump through a few of the early examples of this. So first of all, Carnival Cruise Lines has updated their COVID-19 protocols for people who are unvaccinated. In a statement shared on their website, the cruise line said unvaccinated people traveling on Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, and Maryland-based ships will only be allowed to board if they have been exempt from the vaccine for medical reasons. So you will be expected to be vaccinated unless you're one of the very small number of people who cannot get the vaccine legitimately, or if you have a doctor that will write up a note saying you get to infect people with the if you're one of those two groups, you're still gonna be okay. And so starting on Saturday, August 28th, these passengers will be required to present a letter from their medical provider and an exemption approval letter from Carnival. The statement added that due to these new rules, all other vaccine exemptions previously granted for upcoming voyages will no longer be valid. So considering that, Jayar, before the pandemic, you could take 10 perfectly healthy people and put them on a cruise and like herpes and stuff would just naturally spring forth. These are fonts of disease. There have still been people with COVID getting on these cruise lines. It's been spreading like crazy. And so this is an effort to try to stop that.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I've never been on a cruise, so I don't know that they have to include in the weather report fronts of, was it herpes?
It has been known to happen. It's the buffets that do it, really.
It's like we're approaching this unincorporated island. It's full of herpes in the air. It just spreads. So maybe you want to get into your cabins. Anyway, so
it's a typhus typhoon rolling in.
I don't know, maybe it's gonna affect, but maybe it's just because I'm the paranoid type. And I don't think cruises are so necessary in my life ever, but even right now, to then jump on these, even as a vaccinated individual, because of course, as you mentioned, if you can get enough people that fake it or pull off some kind of doctor's note that doesn't exist, I'm not sure the level of verification that Carnival Cruise Lines is going through to make sure that people really do have these excuses and exemptions. That's my first.
I guess I agree. I guess anything is better than nothing. But look, we know that there are doctors and there are nurses who won't get vaccinated. There are presumably doctors who will be known far and wide. Come to me if you live in Mississippi and I'm gonna write up that you can do whatever you want. oh, you're coughing in my face as I write this. I'm really not that concerned. Here you go. I feel like that will still happen, and cruises are still a very dangerous proposition right now. But there's some people that, I mean, I guess if you've bought enough tropical shirts, like you're invested, you gotta go on those cruises a couple times a year. I would love to do it at some point. I can wait. That's what I'll say.
I don't know. I'm a little worried about it, but the thing is, maybe it's enough of a preventative factor, or at least enough of a policy that people will think first and twice about whether or not they're gonna try and forge this or skirt the issue somehow. Because maybe it's not that important to the unvaccinated folks that are trying to get on these cruises. I don't know, but I would avoid it altogether. I think we can live another year or two without cruises. Not for the cruise lines. I get the cruise lines; they want to make their money. Fine. I mean, for people to want to do it, I'm just not interested in it.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, a reminder: the first major COVID outbreak outside of China occurred on the Diamond Princess and was stuck at sea for several days. 700 people caught COVID and about 7 died. And I believe, was that the cruise ship that Trump was like, just leave them there. I don't want them to come on board because they'll mess up our numbers. Yeah, those 700 cases would have really ruined your pristine record. Anyway, okay, so that's a change with the cruise lines. Let's talk about another change, and this might be a little bit more controversial. I'm curious to see what you think about this. So Delta is going to be imposing not the variant, the airline is going to be imposing a $200 surcharge on unvaccinated employees in their healthcare plan. So they're going to be requiring unvaccinated employees to get tested for COVID-19 each week and wear a mask in all indoor settings. Were you not already expecting this? The airline will also subject unvaccinated employees enrolled in the company's healthcare plan to a $200 monthly surcharge and revoke COVID-19 pay protection for those who are not vaccinated. They put out a statement saying, I know some of you may be taking a wait and see approach or waiting for full FDA approval. With this week's announcement that the FDA has granted full approval for the Pfizer vaccine, the time for you to get vaccinated is now. And so the weekly testing requirements, those will start on September 12th. The healthcare surcharge will take effect on November 1st. So there is like 5 weeks. No, wait, 9. Jesus, it's like close to 10 weeks for you to get vaccinated before this goes into effect. So if you live in America, you're gonna have access in that time. What do you think about this? Is that a good decision?
Yeah, at first when I saw this, I was like, they're coming down hard, and it's up to the company to come down as hard as they want. And enough people that don't want to deal with this surcharge. That's the big one to me, the surcharge on the healthcare stuff. Who don't want to deal with this surcharge may weed themselves out. So there's not actually any kind of conflict or we fired these employees because their lack of owning up to the requirements now that it's been approved by the FDA. And then this morning in the meeting, Brett was saying that the $200 surcharge, I'd have to find out more, but the $200 surcharge could be something that's trying to benefit, the company and then this healthcare company to make more money off of this and that, and then pump this up because of that. But I mean, there's also, I guess they have plausible deniability on the fact that they're like, if you get sick, that costs more money. People going to the hospital, that's not free, as we know in this country. Now,
testing costs money.
You have to test all the time. Now and who knows, how much can we regulate employees wearing masks in the times in every situation that they need to? That's one of those things that I'm just not sure how hard you can go that forward on it. So they're implementing these hardcore policies. And again, it's just he planted some seeds of doubt in my head on that part, but I'd have to look further to see how that all can work out, and really if that's a reasonable thing to add that $200 for that. Yeah. But as far as the pay for once you go out and get sick, that one was my first issue, because what if somebody does get sick and maybe they were vaccinated, or maybe they catch it and that there's some breakthrough cases. So you have some of the gray area that could be a problem with this.
Yeah, look, I don't know if the $200 thing is a reasonable amount. I have no idea. And you know what I would prefer? I would prefer a situation where corporations don't have any room to be making sorts of decisions like this. And the way we get to that is getting everyone vaccinated so that the corporations don't have to be involved in this process at all. Right. But right now they are. And so look, I don't know if there's any one thing that's gonna get us to 100% vaccination. I think it's gonna be a lot of different incentives. Some benefits for being vaccinated, some penalties for not being vaccinated, some restrictions on what you can do or where you can travel. I mean, we're back up to what, like 1,500 people dying close to a day again, needlessly. Anyway,
so you're kind of on board. You're on the You're on the iron fist policy.
Sure. I don't know exactly what the iron fist should look like, but there has to be something. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Delta, by the way, says that 75% of their workforce are already vaccinated, but they want to, of course, get that up to 100%. I mean, look, it's an airline. This is one of those areas where 75% is not good enough. 75% of the doctors in your hospital being vaccinated. I'm not clapping for you. You could do it today. Honestly, I think, you know what? Kids love messing with people. We should just give every kid in the country 20 syringes filled with vaccine. Just let them run wild, just stabbing people. Honestly, they could get the country vaccinated in like a day. I once had a cast on my leg, and the little brother of my friend walked up and asked me what was wrong, and I was like, I hurt my leg, and he wound up and he kicked it as hard as he could. That kid would have vaxxed me and everyone I knew. Anyway.
That kid's an adult now, and he's probably working for this strong-armed Biden administration. I bet he's there.
Probably. That kid, Stephen Miller. No. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take one more break. When we come back, we're gonna really mix things up. We've got a weird block. We're gonna be talking about stand your ground and racist, as well as OnlyFans coming up after this. Okay, everybody, see a lot of comments here. First of all, thank you, This Broad and Pina Colada, for becoming tier 1 members on YouTube. Appreciate you being here. Franklin says, as I love roaming in Wyoming, enjoying the right wing's mouths a foaming. If hate were gold, they'd be rich by far. Oh yeah, they already are. Dragon Jayar, you rock by far. That was a fun one, thank you. Varden said, you said it, a post I wished. I'm a Navy vet who had to give the smallpox vaccine, which had a fork. I have picture, ER nurse for 8 years, please get vaccinated. Thank you, I technically said it. Technically. Kedge Dragon talking about the doctors potentially giving people those cards so they can get onto the cruises, says, Dr. Bananas gives out exemptions like water. Yeah, seriously, I don't even know who gave that monkey his medical license. Billy Bear the Bear Dragon says, hashtag justice for Leslie, hashtag we love you, Leslie. Thank you. I do too. That's the point. Margaret Baldwin says, when did Bill Maher become the old man who screams, get off my lawn, and the person responds, I'm on the sidewalk? Didn't we have 2 of those? Isn't one of them running for Senate now? But anyway, yeah, Bill Maher, look, in Bill Maher's defense, he has really worked hard to be a kind of brainless contrarian for a very long time. Like, that's not a new thing. The particular flavor of it is a bit news, but he's wanted to be a contrarian for a very long time. And he's had some positions that are perfectly fine, but there are some people whose entire thing is, I say things that other people don't. I think things that other people won't. And if people start to be reasonable, I guess I gotta be crazy because I gotta set myself apart somehow. And he is hardly the only person who's like that.
Is the question he's just annoyed by getting another one, if he will, or if he's just saying like this is BS and they're trying to hem me up and this is fake and fake news. I don't know if that's his approach, because it's very easy. Tucker Carlson could have taken something he said like, I don't like getting a shot. My wife doesn't like getting shots either. It could be as simple as that.
I'm not even judging him for this particular comment. I don't know. I don't watch the show anymore, but I know he's said a lot of things. He's done
that's true.
A lot of monologues about cancel culture or whatever. I'll just say that on his TV show that he has not been canceled. Anyway, okay, non-human humanist says, I don't get cruise ships. People taking everything that they have on land to the ocean and dump a bunch of waste and human waste in there. Why? That's a good point. For me, maybe this is nerdy, but the only reason I would really want to go on a cruise ship, well, there's 2. 1, I hear there's a lot of buffets, and 2, it's the closest thing to being on a spaceship. Like, it's this self-sustaining world, and then there's just the stuff out there. I don't know. I kind of want to go to space. I'm not a billionaire. Okay, let's see. Thank you for those of you who are involved in the hype train. Crits by Design, subscribed for 4 months, says the streak lives on. Happy to support John TYT. Very much, thank you. Blue Tech gifted 3 tier 1 community subs. Thank you. Your Highness 420 Dragon subscribed for 5 months, says, I mentioned on Ray that I couldn't afford a sub, and a wonderful member named Young Something bought me a sub. Those of you who help the rest are the best. Example of how great we could be. Thank you, John Jayar. I love you guys. That's really nice. Thank you for whoever that viewer was. I think that was during reactions. Thank you. Okay, Tessa Partial resubscribed with Prime for 10 months. Thank you. DJ Slave Zero subscribed for 10 months. Thank you as well. Grazareth for 14 months says, thanks for keeping me halfway sane these days. Keep up the good work, everyone. Thank you. And Sea Snake Mistake Dragon followed us on Twitter or on Twitch. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being out there.
Sea snakes.
Okay, we got more news to get to though, so we'll be back after this. Okay, everyone, we are about to show you very rough footage, so hold on to your news butts. Let's jump into this.
In the red. Yeah, right behind this guy. You losers. You ran over my foot. You guys keep moving. And this guy right now.
Y'all don't be on the news. Y'all don't make the news.
That's fine.
Okay, so what you had there is a little bit of an interaction during a protest back in 2019. A man named Mark Bartlett and his wife jumping out of their car that had been stopped by a protest and rushing the kids who were protesting. Mark Bartlett decided to bring his gun because America. And so we want to catch you up on this because there are now some consequences for this, and it's taken perhaps an even worse turn. But before we give you the details, we want you to understand the interaction. So we're gonna show you more of the footage, but you need to understand there's not much dialogue because so much of it has to be bleeped out. And that is both, it's a melange really, of traditional swears and Mark Bartlett repeatedly yelling the N-word. So with that said, take a look.
She's so viral. You just ran over me. You just ran over my foot. You're tired. No, you're not. You're right here. You ran over my foot.
Don't touch me, bro.
You just touched me, you bunch of thugs. That guy in the red. Yeah, right behind this guy. You losers. You ran over my foot. You guys keep moving. And this guy right
Y'all
now.
don't be on the news. Y'all don't make the news.
That's fine.
All right.
Put that gun to my head.
Okay, so there's other video, by the way. That was just one of the times they got out of their car. And there's also footage from when they were in their cars. So at one point, Mark Bartlett was driving his car and someone was filming him in his car. And he was just shouting N-words suck over and over and over again, to give you an idea. I do like it when people find their soulmate though. The fact that she ran up on those kids and immediately called them a bunch of thugs. Like they really did find each other, Jayar. So that's good.
Yeah, they're meant to be. But this is the thing. As I'm sure you're gonna get to what their defense is on this, but
yes.
Usually if you're trying to, maybe you're worried about a certain group of people and you're the victim here, you usually don't run up on them, get in their face, and call them a bunch of names. Because that's how people act when they're worried or threatened or feel like somebody's coming for them. They come for them. They come after the perceived threat first. Because that's how things usually work here. When you have a car and kids are on bikes, because that's an even matchup there. I get the inconvenience if you're upset about being stopped. I get inconvenienced by Priuses every day. Doesn't mean I jump out and then run up on them and say, "How dare you block this way? You're driving 25 miles an hour on the freeway." Like all that stuff. It doesn't mean you have to then become the aggressor on this. Like
totally,
people like the level of anger that happens from a simple thing like this, and you're packing your gun while you call other people thugs. Yeah. It's just the irony is dripping here.
100%. Like I don't know what a thug is, but running up and threatening kids with a gun seems like one thing. And look, honestly, like it's a really aggressive thing to do, especially if you have whatever thing is affecting him that causes him to walk like this, whatever that is. Be more careful starting fights with people if you have whatever that is, whatever this is. Anyway, let me get the details of what was going on. So back on MLK Day in 2019 in Miami, where the footage takes place, a group of teenagers, boys and girls, some as young as 11 years old, were protesting the lack of affordable housing there. The boys rode their bicycles to Brickell as part of Bikes Up, Guns Down, a nationwide movement for public MLK Day group rideouts to protest racial injustice. So this is awesome. I understand it's inconvenient or whatever, but those kids are doing what you're supposed to do. Like, this is an American thing, trying to raise awareness around serious issues. One boy held up a Save Liberty Square sign referring to the community where a historic public housing project for blacks first opened back in 1937. And BLM in general at that time was advocating stopping traffic as a form of civil disobedience to disrupt the daily life of people who might otherwise be unaware of their plight. And I sort of get it. Like, okay, you don't want them to stop traffic. You just want what? You want to be able to continue on with your life the way it was without having to learn about anything that inconveniences you, which I sort of get. But anyway, as a result of what you saw there, Mark Bartlett is facing 5 felony charges of carrying a concealed weapon, 3 counts of aggravated assault with prejudice, and improper exhibition of a firearm. He says that he got out of his car to confront the protesters with his gun because he feared for his wife's safety.
Oh, yeah.
An officer on the scene said he saw the kids obstructing traffic but saw no need to exit his vehicle. His attorney said they're riding up to vehicles, they're banging on cars, they're scaring people. They have masks on, they're scaring people. I have a feeling that their opposition to masks probably is consistent. But anyway, so his wife was in danger, supposedly. She ran out and got up on them, like, and said that they'd ran over their foot. And I don't think that he did. And even if he did, it's not that bad, but I don't think that he did. So you can't endanger yourself and then claim I can use deadly force because of how scared I am. Except that in America, you very much can, because we call that standing your ground now. And that is the defense that he is gonna be taking, Jayar.
Cool.
They put themselves in danger, get really, really scared, and then their fear is the excuse to potentially murder someone. So I don't know if it's gonna work, but this is the defense he's using.
Well, this is the same thing. This is the Ken and Karen thing. We saw the couple in Missouri, in St. Louis area, come out with long rifles and then a handgun and talk about stand your ground because people were walking in front of their house to somewhere else, by the way. So it's become like there's like the incentives for whether or not you're gonna do a certain thing that's aggressive and violent and potentially murderous from when we saw this happen in Florida before. So you kill someone and you can get off from saying you're standing your ground no matter what the situation is. Yep. So we talk about like these incentives for whether or not you're gonna try and keep people from committing crimes, or whether or not you're gonna go ahead and tell them they can do it. This has been telling all these folks, especially in states like Florida, hey, if you have a gun and you see the wrong kind of person out there that generally we can assume the police will side with you on, you can pull your gun out and say they were threatening you. Because in general, the police believe they're threatening too. That's what they do. Like they're all learning the same lesson. Yeah. Hey, black folks, no matter what their age, no matter what they're on, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing in that space, they're threatening. And as long as I say they're threatening, because I'm the scared white person, everyone else is gonna believe me. Yeah. And the sad part is that's not like a radical argument from them. It's been used over and over and over again. That's why they're using it again now, because they get away with it because of that argument.
Totally, yeah, totally. And they almost always do. This maybe is too crazy of an example, but honestly, who knows? Like the fact that he's running at people with a gun doesn't seem to him to take away from the fact that he's standing his ground and in defense. By the way, the idea of acting in self-defense already existed. Perfectly good. If you were actually defending yourself, that was not good enough for these people. And so right-wingers around the country decided it is not quite easy enough for white people to murder black people. So we're gonna come up with stand your ground. And now it's been passed all over the country. And so what are we supposed to do, Jayar? Like you have to get legislatures in all these different countries to overturn it. Or in theory, get a Supreme Court that's sane. Except how are we supposed to do that in the next 20 years? So, I mean, how many incidents are we gonna have like this? This one thankfully didn't result in anyone being shot, but often they do. And we're seemingly stuck with this for some time.
Well, if I'm not sure if these gun experts and people that talk about the gun usage and safeties, I'm not sure if this guy was using the correct gun safety protocols and all that stuff, running out waving his gun, which again, if it's in the wrong kind of a situation, could easily accidentally shoot someone and say, oh, well, they were attacking me. Now you have to come up with excuses. There's a reason why you don't bring these types of weapons into a general disagreement or anger based off of what they're doing. Hey, drive by and yell at them. I don't agree. Keep going, bro. Like, why does it have to get to this point? Yeah. There's this anger with anyone who's doing anything for themselves or disagrees with what you think normal society should be. Yeah, fine, be mad and disagree. I see protests all the time. We drove up to Napa over the weekend. I saw Trump signs. I saw dump Gavin Newsom signs and keep California safe signs. I saw protests in the streets. I saw all that stuff. It's weird. It's weird. I didn't go to the local gun shop and find a gun and go, I'm gonna go tell them to give them a piece of my mind.
Did you not have time or? Yeah, and I'm glad that you didn't, because we know how juries end up adjudicating all this. Let's play a little quick mind game. So he said, I have to have this gun because those kids will kill my wife and they'll kill me. I might be killed, so I need to have this gun. Here, let's flip this around. If those kids had beaten him to death with a bicycle because a guy was running at them with a firearm, were they standing their ground? Would they have been? They were scared. I mean, after all, on their side, they can at least say the other guy has a gun. That seems to buttress their argument. When the woman was getting in their face and like pushing them and stuff, could they have stood their ground there? She was being very aggressive. A crazy person got out of a car and rushed them. But you know that that's not how anyone would actually adjudicate that. The white guy with the gun, or the guy that at least looks white in the video, I have no idea who he actually is going to be able to say these unarmed kids who are literally doing a bikes up, guns down movement are scary. But me with a gun, I'm not. No one can actually be scared by this. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, because the mere existence of you, even as a black teenager, I don't know how old these guys were, your mere existence is a threat. That's what we've been taught. That's what the police have been believing, and that's what general society thinks as well. You're a threat because you exist. I can have a gun. I'm still not a threat if I'm this guy.
Yeah. Okay, really fast. Let's jump into our last story of this first hour. So less than a week ago, the platform OnlyFans announced that they would be banning sexually explicit material, which makes up the vast majority of the content and the types of creators that are on that platform. It was seen as a complete abandoning of the creators who had made the platform worth as much as it was. And the reaction was harsh and fast too. And so people wondered, what are they going to do? Well, they did, I think, the only thing that made financial sense for them, at least in the short term. They are reversing course on plans to ban sexually explicit content after securing agreement with its payment processors, it is announced. Now, maybe there were some sort of new deals that were set up in the interim with the payment processors. Maybe. I think it's more likely that they were about to lose everything and they knew that, and so they decided we would rather have our content creators and more limited ways to process payments than have MasterCard like us and nobody will be on our platform. That's sort of my guess at this point, Jayar. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I was wondering this as as things started getting banned and people had limitations and all that stuff. I was like, this is gonna eventually get to OnlyFans, where they're thinking we don't want to be considered this next porn site, right? And I didn't fully think they would get there because of the amount of money that was just being generated. I was like, well, money rules all. So I was a little surprised when they even started this whole thing, but I guess they came to their financial consciousness and they were thinking, hey, we got to continue to make our money. And who cares? There's so many people that are going through this platform, especially in times like this. You got to be the one, because guess what might happen? There might be another one that pops up to take your place, and they generate all that money.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose what's already been working for you. I think that's part of the motivation too. It's not like some other entity couldn't have started up and said, hey, all OnlyFans creators or whatever the hell they're called, come in, take us.
Well, and there already were some platforms that were almost certainly going to get some of those creators. I imagine even with this change, the creators are probably going to be a little bit less focused specifically on this platform, because you never know, maybe they'll make this change again. I don't know.
Right.
OnlyFans put out a statement saying, thank you everyone for making your voices heard. We have secured assurances necessary to support our diverse creator community and have suspended the planned October 1st policy change. OnlyFans stands for inclusion. and we will continue to provide a home for all creators. Please, we would really like to. Please, still call us home. Come back. Don't close the door. No, don't lock it. No. If I had to guess, that's probably how that went.
No, that first sentence just there. Thank you for everyone for making your voices heard. If you hear a company or entity say something like that, they're like, we just received a lot of public pressure, and we're gonna cave, which is fine. You listen to your customers basically. So that's what happens. You tried something, it didn't work.
Yeah. Anyway, look. I don't know if they're gonna necessarily recover like their reputation. I don't know generally what creators thought of OnlyFans before. I assume this is going to do some lingering damage to the way that their creators and customers think of them. But in the interim, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of individuals that either wholly or in part make their living through this, thankfully now are not being totally cast aside and wondering how they're gonna pay their rent. So that is a good thing.
Well, John,
it's a good.
We'll see if they follow my lead, because I was right about to end my Jayar's Candies page on OnlyFans. I was really close. It was just about to happen. I think that's the thing. I sent them an email and everything. I said, listen, I'm one of your top content creators, and I'm just not happy with this decision that you're about to make. This is ridiculous. Where will the customers get their candies? I mean, it's obvious, it's here. I think I should launch my own website. I need to be the competition.
Only Jayar's? Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, it was probably you. But anyway, beyond this, I would say, if you're watching this and you have a company, you sell a service, you sell a product, I have a crazy idea. Advertise on OnlyFans, or not even if you don't like OnlyFans because of what they did, whatever. Advertise on places where explicit content is provided, because stop being babies, honestly. Like you can advertise on things that have lingerie, you can advertise on things that have bikini, you can advertise on things which on different levels are about sexuality and titillation and all that. But if it's explicit, you can't. It's one, as we keep saying, it's one of the most fundamental things about being a human is sexuality. It is not new, it is not wrong in any way. Like dicing out separating little areas where it's like, oh, well, you look really good in a bikini on the beach. That's really cool. You took off the bikini top, you're horrible. That doesn't make any sense. How long are we gonna continue like this as a species? We can move past this. We could do it all together. We could rip off the bandage and stop pretending that there's something wrong with this. If we want.
We have this fake, we're so, worried about what things look like. We have billboards with people with guns and movies and all this stuff that look really bad, way worse than this. So
I agree. Unfortunately, we're out of time. There is more coming. We're gonna take a short break, but more news is coming up right after this. Welcome back, everybody. We got some more news coming up for you in just a few, but before that, I want to let you know a few things that are going on. Actually, let's start with some super chats. As Charles says, John, would you go on a cruise ship knowing they're a big contributor to climate change? I've literally never gone on one anyway, so apparently not. Regardless of their climate change effect, no. They seem expensive. I don't really do trips much. Tom Twiddell, hey Tom, says, I should be working, but I can't connect to my VPN because I'm in the virtual queue for a Disney Magic Key, LOL. Is that a park thing? On the plus side, I get to watch the show live. Reminder to hit that like button, folks. Thank you, Tom. That's very nice of you to remind people. Jason R says, stand your ground as a defense in court because you are supposed to be defending yourself, not bringing a gun into a situation. If one of the protesters had a gun, same law says they fear too. Yes, technically it might, but we know demographically how they tend to adjudicate those things.
Did you notice also in that, by the way, as soon as he jumps out of the car with that gun, several other guys on the bikes like retreated immediately. Like that's a symbol of being pursued and being
actually scared.
And the aggression, yeah. So the woman all up in everyone's face, that doesn't seem very threatened to me. She's all up in your face.
Sometimes when I get really scared, I attack people. Anyway, Tempo Dan says, I don't do trips, star of True North. Well, yes, but that was for work. Realan says, can we get a sprocket for Leslie? Hashtag Leslie Bucks, hashtag free sprocket.
I know.
Come on, Jayar.
Sprocket lately has been relegated to the room, and it's not even of my doing. It's just he goes in there because it's still morning, and he goes in there and the door closed, so he doesn't keep bouncing around. That's all. Not my fault. Not my fault.
Sure. Okay, the Flying Contradiction Dragon said, thank you everyone at TYT and the entire Dragon Squad for educating a previous oblivious voter, passing on the progressive message. It was a very generous super chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll give you a part of that. I like giving back. TYT was part of my political awakening and education. Dan C says, it is insulting to science and all the norms of biology that Trump continues to metabolize. Healthier people have fallen for less. I know, we dodged a bullet there. Or the opposite of that. Dragon Answer says, for Leslie and the dragon about to get evicted, love this whole community, take care of yourselves. Yes, thank you, Dragon Dancer, appreciate that. Feral Dragon said, in July, a black teen shot a 60-year-old white guy that reached in the car and was choking his friend. Cops said the teen was totally within his rights. Based on that bit of information, good news, I think.
Horrible situation.
Thank you, Feral Dragon. I'm glad to know that.
Hey, we have a breakthrough.
What? Sprocky
made it back. No lie. He was in the room. He literally came out once you guys talked about him. I think his ears were burning, like they're a little hot. So no, he has his summer. He has a summertime cut because it's been warm, and so he's not so fluffy in here right now. But you know, there he is.
Hashtag hot sprocket summer.
That's the guy.
There you go. I see a lot of sprocket emojis in the chat already.
That's
okay. Texark2, thank you for subscribing for the second month over on Twitch. Very nice of you. Alabama Vet resubscribed for the 8th month. Thank you. And Rodney gave out 25 tier 1 community subs. Rodney 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Rodney 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 25. Thank you. That's very nice of you. Okay. Kyle sent in a comment saying, I saw a great tweet yesterday. Anti-vaxxers are saying they don't want to be a part of your experiment, but you are. You're part of the control group. Ouch. And that is true. Okay. Let's I think we can probably get through everything that's left on a Big News Wednesday. What are the odds?
Wow.
So let's
I need to ramble more.
Don't feel obligated. Oh, by the way, I don't think I read this comment. There was Lauren said, I would definitely buy Jayar's candy. Well, now you still have a chance because it's still around. Anyway, with that, let's jump into this. The massive airlift campaign in Kabul continues with some good news and some bad news of the grifty variety. So first of all, more than 70,700 people have been evacuated from Afghanistan as of Tuesday evening. Nearly 6,000 American troops are protecting the international airport in Kabul, the capital, and additional US flights are leaving every 45 minutes. I throw this out there, I don't know for sure, but one source that seemed reputable said that in a one-day period, they got out about as many people as fly out of Ronald Reagan Airport. seems impossible to imagine, but clearly they are moving a lot more people. And how they've done that is complex. It involves a lot of different factors. Here's the worst one, at least entering the story now. Blackwater founder Erik is among the growing number of private defense contractors and former spies who are attempting to turn a profit on desperate Afghans who want out of their country before the US shutters its 20-year mission on August 31st. So how is he doing that? Well, Prince, whose Blackwater guards were convicted of killing civilians in 2014 while providing security for Americans during the Iraq War, said he was charging each passenger $6,500 to get them safely into the airport and on a plane. And it would cost extra to get people who've been trapped in their homes to the airport. It remained unclear whether Mr. Prince had the wherewithal to carry out his plans. But he is saying, I'll help get you. Oh, you're scared. You're scared that the Taliban might come and kill you or imprison you, beat you and your family. Well, I'll get you out for a price, $6,500. And that's not the Uber to the airport, so to speak. They have to pay extra for that, Jayar. What do you think? I can't hear you, Jayar. You've been silenced by OnlyFans.
Oh my God, they've been silenced already just because I've been violating rules. So with this added part about getting people out of their homes if they've been kept in their homes, they're getting by some checkpoints where the Taliban is being very vicious and aggressive. That's adding to their whole approach to saying, well, we're here to help. But we keep talking about how chaotic it is there and how the Biden administration can't pull this off, which is very many true statements with that. So what is it about you where you can step in and do something where you think you can do it better, all for the sake of charging more? Hey, if you're so concerned about the people, because there was one part of this Wall Street Journal article where they said, oh, part of our rescue efforts are based in our true empathy and worry about the people trying to get out. If you're truly worried about the people trying to get out and truly worried about their lives and potentially what could happen to them if they don't get out, maybe you help the government and their interest in trying to get them out rather than thinking, this is a money-making opportunity. Because Erik Prince needs a couple extra dollars because he doesn't have enough. He can't make rent this month. So he's got to make sure he charges people to get them out of Afghanistan during this whole chaotic time. And not making it any more chaotic with his private security issues and private security armies to get people out. Does that make it easier for other folks to get out, or does it make it harder if the situation is already as bad as it is?
How is he even there? Dude, ban it, ban him, ban his planes. He's basically like, up until this week, like Jacob Wohl. How are you not in prison for? How do you how many free crimes do some people get? I'm worried I'm gonna accidentally run afoul of the law, and these people get to do multiple felonies, like in just clear and open daylight. But anyway, at the very least, stop him from being involved in this. So we bring up this for a couple different reasons. One, because it's like the worst sort of exploitative grift ever. People are pointing out that he's like a worse version of the Pharma Pro, which is kind of true. But also, I want to raise it as a topic, which is cost. So he is getting a lot of bad press for asking for $6,500 for each seat. But I want us to be on the watch for when we eventually are finding out, are there costs that are being levied on the people who are getting out via the government or via other commercial enterprises, either the cost to fly or resettlement fees. Like, I want to know if there is more exploitation happening. And so hopefully we will receive good stories of that. But for now, even before getting them out, the exploitation has already begun. And when there are so many people that need to get out now, the idea that you're gonna make it a thing where only the incredibly wealthy can. By the way, in a time when, from what we talked with Arash Azazari, and he said that the banks were effectively like shut down. And so like the people who would actually have access to this much liquid capital it's just, this is not the time for making sure that only the wealthy get to flee the Taliban.
And by the way, some of these, there's another Jayar International. It's also a Washington-based development firm. They're doing similar things, and they're charging people to get out too. But they've got planes that got like 345 seat plane, had 50 passengers because of the struggles with getting people in through, getting people on. And also, there's blockades with American officials and everything because they don't know what's happening here. They don't know who they're transporting and why and where. It's all confusion. So even after you get these folks to it, then they're asking, well, we need more money in order for us to get off the ground. So they start trying to pilfer more money out of these folks. It's so bad, especially when your entire objective is to make money off of other people's suffering. It's like it's the American way. So they don't know any other way to do it. They're like, help people. Why would I do that? I've got access to siphon money out of them. That's the way to do it. It sucks, man. It sucks, and you can't talk about how horrible other people are if you're doing things like this.
Exactly. I mean, for him, we're not really surprised. Like look, you want to give me money to smash up this country? Cool. You want to give me money to get out some of the people who are fleeing because of how we smash it up? Cool. Just give me money. I don't care what happens. It's terrible that there are people like this that still have influence and are still capable of doing things like this. By the way, it was brought up in the chat, something I had seen earlier. There are reports that Hillary Clinton is involved in getting at-risk women out of the country on private flights. We have very few details for that. I'm assuming she's not charging $6,500, but we'll see. If she is in fact doing no charge, okay, good, I'm glad. That is good. See, we can give Hillary Clinton credit when she does the right thing, and also criticize her when she does bad things. Seems reasonable to do those two things. Anyway, okay, we are going to move into this next topic. Actually, why don't we launch directly into this video?
Right, we are 8 months into a Biden presidency, Jesse. Wrap your head around that. We still have 3 years and 4 months left. Look, when President Trump was president, you didn't see crisis after crisis. You just didn't see it. I shudder to think about what COVID would have been like under Joe Biden. We've seen Afghanistan blow up, crime in the streets, you named it all. What would COVID have been like? Because I was in the White House when it was pretty scary times. We weren't sure if we'd have enough ventilators.
Yeah, it was pretty scary times. Didn't like basically all of you have COVID during those times? Oh God, what would have happened if Biden had been in charge? I don't know, would 600,000 Americans have died in a very short period? That would have been devastating. Can you imagine? I can't conceive of it. I grew up watching sci-fi, and even I can't wrap my head around these possibilities. But anyway, that's Kayleigh McEnany, who's been gone for a bit. She's terrible. She just lies. That's her entire thing. But anyway, she said back then you hadn't had crisis after crisis after crisis. We decided to do a bit of digging, Jayar. But before we get into that, what do you think about her commentary there?
Yeah, before you get to the crisis after crisis, so we didn't have all these issues. She contradicted herself in the same sentence. First, she said, can you imagine how bad it would be it wouldn't have been this bad under the Trump administration. I mean, we had shortage of ventilators and people couldn't get to the hospital and people were dying. You just said you had shortage of ventilators. That's a good thing. Was that it getting bad, or was that it getting okay? Because I think the people who were on the ventilators, who most times after that passed away, and you had a shortage of those things, I see that as a bad situation. Despite what you just said, it was so good under the Trump administration. We had people couldn't even get to a ventilator. It was awesome.
I don't know. You sent a whole bunch of people to attack the Capitol. That was under your administration, actually. That was on the 6th. But anyway, she said there had been crisis after crisis, and it was so long ago, nobody remembers what happened back then. So I did a little bit of digging. By the way, so in all reality, we're gonna walk through a couple of these little crises. All I did was just think for a sec, what are some of the big ridiculous things that happened? You could do hundreds of these, but I recall a few crises, like for instance, when he suggested that we inject bleach into our bodies to stop COVID from affecting us. That seemed like a big issue. Now, it was a small moment in months and months of crises happening over and over, but there were other ones. You can go back a little bit further. Remember when they were like forcibly separating families just to convince people south of our border that we were so cruel that whatever horrible situation you have in your country, it's better than coming to America. That was the message we wanted to send. Or, the time that he so desperately wanted to take this photo that they decided they would brutalize peaceful protesters, buzz them with helicopters and gas them out so that he could hold a Bible upside down and stare ahead like he had no idea what a Bible or a book even was. Or the time when the weather wasn't really going the way he wanted, so he decided, I say where the weather's going, so I'll Sharpie a weather map. Look, these are not necessarily even the most devastating and substantive of crises, but you cannot pretend that there wasn't crisis after crisis after crisis, because it was constant.
Well, this is an indication of the way that they approach things. Those weren't crises because they didn't call them crises. They just said that was Trump derangement syndrome. For anyone who brought up all of those crises that happened during his administration. They brought up how he was acting. They brought up the first thing he did was completely go racist and go through some policies putting forward against any Latino immigrants. How about that part? How about the lies about how they're coming to destroy the country and these caravans? All these lies that were constantly pitting other folks against against certain groups of people. That's what. None of that happened, but it happened to people that we don't care about. Those crises are not crises. You brought up the immigration stuff with kids in cages and the situation there at immigration centers, which are still happening now, as we point out. There's plenty of issues with immigration centers. Now they're crises. It's the same crisis that was happening before, but now it just doesn't become one because they didn't clarify or they didn't put that in the category of crises. So Kayleigh McEnany and the Trump administration get to call whatever they want crises, and we're supposed to just believe it. It's the epitome of the privilege that comes with these types of folks that say, well, I didn't say it was a crisis, so you shouldn't believe that it is one at all. And enough people believe them, and there you have it. They bought their own BS.
Yeah, and like as you point out, like they're even forgetting some of the ones that they brought up before. Like, are they forgetting the great crisis of the Bowling Green Massacre? Like you're forgetting crises that actually happened. And there was, the very fine people, and like you could go on and on. The Muslim ban and the massive protests against all of your insanity. Like you could consider that a crisis from your perspective. There was what happened in Kenosha, and there was, hey, the time you got COVID and we had to watch you like desperately trying to draw breath through the moldy sponge that was all that was left of your lungs at that point. There were crises to go around, man.
Was it Helsinki where he bowed down to Putin? I mean, imagine these things that happen.
Or got laughed at the UN, or apparently went abroad and insulted our soldiers from World War II. I mean, like it was years of it. Or when you nominate a guy for a Supreme Court that apparently spent all of his high school years doing bench presses, pounding beers, and trying to sexually assault women. That was kind of a crisis. There was hurricanes and there was fires. It was the seven apocalypses for years. I'm a broken man because of your crises. Kayleigh McEnany, go back under your rock.
Just remember, those crises did not affect the rich and powerful surrounding him, so therefore they weren't. That's the bottom line.
Like K-Chan just brought up, I completely forgot. Ukraine, he was impeached over it. There was a crisis about that. Yes, the hurricane in Puerto Rico. Yes, Maria was what I was referring to there. But yeah, that was devastating. And like, remember when you were like doing like free throws of paper towels and stuff? That was a crisis. Remember, whose boat is that? Is that your boat? That was a crisis. There were so many crises. Anyway. Yeah, the weird stuff with the Saudis. People bringing up great stuff in the chat.
No, it's hard to remember all of them, and we'll see how much more time can tell because people forgot about the Bush administration. There was crisis all over the place there, but it's been long enough that we're like, oh well, he wasn't so bad, and we're gonna get there with Trump. Trust, because this is the base for that. Kayleigh McEnany and people like her going on TV and trying to change history. Isn't it weird how that keeps happening? It seems like that's kind of our protocol. We go for it and we try and change horrible things that happened and things that took place under certain folks and claim that it wasn't such a big deal at all. Enough people forget about it and go, yeah, that wasn't much of a big deal. Nothing really happened, did it? It works. Yeah. It works.
K-Chan brought up we should do the top 10 Trump crises. We might. We'll see. That's not a bad idea. Sarah says John will never finish the stories now that he's listing all the crises. No, we're good. We still have time. But anyway, yeah, he was impeached twice. You're talking about crises? You're talking about crises. Come on. Anyway. Okay, let me read just a couple of quick comments and we'll get into the last story. Rue Bird Dragon says, I hear from anti-vaxxers that because the pharma company can't be held liable for bad reactions and breaking through infections. Yeah, I mean, I get why, they can't be held liable for breakthrough infections. They specifically say that it only gives you so much protection, not more. I'm down for us having a conversation about the lies and the excesses and the exploitation of big pharma. It's just super convenient when this is the only time that certain people bring it up.
I'm also curious. I mean, usually big pharma makes money off of keeping you sick and continue to have things that they can give you consistently, and can constantly make money off of you. They don't have an end game of their money making. This would be some sort of end game if enough people can get vaccinated. It just doesn't match up with their normal approach to making money off of you.
That's true. Hardwood Games, thank you for resubscribing. The Dragon says, camera, woman, person, Diet Coke. That was a crisis, man. That was so a crisis. How about like when you had an interview and you were asked about QAnon, you were like, well, I don't know, I hear that they like me. They seem like very nice people. They're very worried about Satan. That was a crisis. Anyway, okay. That's enough crises for now. We'll have more for you later. Top 100 Trump crises coming up soon. Jesus. But let's go back to this. Okay. Never thought we were gonna get to this block. So we've shown you multiple bits of footage from the school board meetings of crazy parents standing up and trying to encourage the schools to allow COVID to roam free like the mighty buffalo. So we decided to mix it up. We have footage going around of an individual, the founder of the Tennessee Holler. Here is a reasonable person speaking at one of these meetings.
Justin Canoe, I'm a dad in Williamson County. Didn't plan on speaking, but here we go. First of all, critical race theory is not in our schools, and it never was. And the people here to complain about it did not know what it was 6 months ago and had never heard of it. That's why they're going after diversity, equity, and inclusion instead and trying to pretend they're the same thing. They aren't. And frankly, there aren't many communities around the globe that need DEI more than this one that we live in. On another note, I'm a dad of a new kindergartner, and her first day was right after the chaos last week. She went to school and was one of just a few kids in her class wearing a mask, which made her ask me why she had to. My answer was because we want to take care of other people. She's 5 years old, but she understood that concept. And it's disappointing that more adults around here can't seem to grasp it. I asked a pastor friend of mine, and he was very clear there's no actual biblical justification for using the Bible to get out of a mask mandate passed by a majority of this elected board. But thousands are doing it anyway, calling it a religious exemption, which is frankly just sad. Avoiding masks is not in the Bible, but taking care of others is. And now today we have Governor Lee's executive order to allow opt-outs, which is government overreach undercutting a local decision. If you only like democracy when it goes your way, you don't actually like democracy. Thank you.
A lot of great points. That last point I think is great as well. And yeah, it's indisputable. They have no interest whatsoever in democracy. They want to be in power. That's basically it. But yeah, that is a reasonable person. And you'll notice, by the way, the crowd was pretty silent. Whereas you have like the crazy green shirt guy from last Friday, who's just like talking about the spirit of the wind going through you in Nuremberg, and like a whole bunch of Facebook moms and dads are like, "Whoa, it's the best." But of course, that guy was far more articulate than the vast majority of us would be in that case. But he is actually representative of what the majority of Americans believe. They want their kids to be safe. They want there to be masks. They want people to be vaccinated. But we've come to a point where that sort of thing doesn't generally go viral. It doesn't get the cheers. Just being reasonable, caring about your neighbor, these sort of core American things actually stands out. And so great job by Justin there.
The basis of our agendas and policies now, especially with people that just watch and support folks, is based on how much of a cheering crowd you can get behind you. And the reason there's a cheering crowd there is to hype up your stupidity. So if you say something that means nothing and no one's there to cheer it on, then you're sitting there in silence of stupidity. So if there's a cheering crowd behind you, you have to go. When you do that, and then they cheer for you, it doesn't sound as dumb anymore because like, oh man, they have a bunch of dumbasses that are following them. So whatever that reason is that they try to do this and use it to make some kind of an applause line, that's what we base our policies on. Applause lines versus constant facts from this guy and reasonable things. Because if you have to sit and listen to reason and facts and a real agenda, you have to go, I have to think about something. Thinking about something is something that we have turned off Americans consistently. I remember when Obama was running, they said, this guy is an elitist. He went to Princeton, I don't care where he went. He went to Harvard. Isn't he so smart? Don't you hate smart people? Yeah, we've flipped the script to where you have to celebrate stupidity and ignorance. And that's the basis for our policies. And now this whole wing of politicians are like, let's cater to the stupidity and the ignorance. And that's where we are now. So someone like this gets silenced because they're going, what words did he just say? He didn't even scream. He didn't call anyone.
He didn't even talk about the wind in our soul. He didn't do any of that. He didn't. What you gonna do when the wind blows through you? You'd be cheering for me if you were here. Surely you would be. Anyway, great job there. Let's have more people be reasonable. let's work towards that. Anyway, Jayar, as always, thank you for joining us. You make it Big News Wednesday. We appreciate being here. Congrats on the continuation of only Jayars. We're very happy for you.
New content upcoming. New content.
I hope not. But anyway, thank you. Okay, everybody. Yes. That's it for the damage report, but Indisputable is coming up very soon. Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Dina Dahl. It's gonna be a lot of fun. You can stay at twitch.tv/TYT or head to youtube.com/indisputable_TYT to watch that in just a few. Later on today, I will be joining Anna Kasparian for the second hour of the Young Turks. And there's a lot of other great stuff happening besides. But for now, stay safe out there. Stay safe there. See you soon.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie. Good to be with you. We got a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day with me will be none other than Dina Dahl, law and crime legal analyst. Always a good time with Ms. Dahl. Also, the bullpen segment, my debate segment. We will have Ashley St. Clair. Ashley St. Clair is author of Elephants Are Not Birds and director of operations at Arsenal Media Group. We'll talk about anti-mask, anti-vax movement, LGBTQ rights, and maybe a couple of other things. We'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, my top story for today, there's a guy who blurted out "Hail Hitler" during a board meeting, doing a Nazi salute, basically. Well, this guy has now been fired from his job. A man accused of giving a Nazi salute and saying "Hail Hitler" during a Board of Education meeting in Detroit has lost his job as a tennis instructor at a local health and fitness club, the Metro Times reports. Okay, let's go to that. Let's go to that graphic. Okay, we reported on this story when it first happened. All right, people were outraged. Now, this individual, he's an anti-mask person, but he decided to utilize something that is deeply troubling in order to express his opinion during that board meeting. Speaking to the Metro Times, the owner of the sports club said that Paul Markham's bio has been taken off their website after news got around that he flashed the salute during a heated debate at the August 17th meeting regarding mandatory masks in schools. Let's put up the picture of what they took down. That's him. That's the guy. Obviously a world-class tennis instructor, right? You don't see it? Neither do I. Markham allegedly made the gesture toward Susan Busdiker, who is Jewish, and 2 African-American women. He had no problem with this, thought it was quite appropriate. All 3 women supported mask mandates, Deadline Detroit previously reported. Ms. Busdiker said this, and I quote, "It's a hate crime, and it happened on school property." Busdiker, a mother of a student entering middle school after a year of virtual learning, told Deadline Detroit, "I'm not taking it lightly," and you should not. You should not take it lightly, okay? You have to make examples out of individuals like this, and that's exactly what has happened. This private company has taken action, and good for them. All right, to talk more about this, Dina Dahl, what are your thoughts here?
Okay, so about what he said, some people could say it's free speech, right? But there are exceptions to free speech. One is fighting words and incitement to violence, which this, I think, would be very easy to argue that it would be. And so he could be, have a crime, a disorderly conduct crime based on this. So when she was saying this is a hate crime is an enhancement to some underlying crime. The underlying crime could be disorderly conduct. There could be an enhancement to a hate crime. So that is possible. And then just to speak really briefly on this idea that sometimes we hear about cancel culture and how maybe it's unfair or he doesn't have rights. This is a private company that fired him. Private companies are allowed to hire and fire anybody they want. And they did it theoretically because it was good business for them. They did not want somebody like him representing the company. They have absolute right to do that. He's not a member of any kind of protected group that would have had some sort of enhanced legal review on this. So, they were well within their rights to fire him. And it is true that he could, although it doesn't seem like that's happening now, there could be some sort of criminal charge against him as a result of it as well.
Yeah, you make a great point, because last time I checked, people that support Adolf Hitler, they are not part of a protected class. They are in a class all by themselves. And the private company, their private company, they have a duty and obligation to protect the brand of that private company. Naturally, the fact that you have an employee who, by the way, is in a leadership position. This guy had his bio and picture on their website. He's one of the front standing employees of this particular company. Well, now you have a picture and you have video of him doing the Nazi salute and saying Hail Hitler. Well, that's a problem, okay? And I don't think anyone should argue that this is somehow protected political speech when obviously the arena that he did it in was a school board meeting. He did create chaos. I think is a strong argument for disorderly conduct. But then the connection to that arena is the fact that there's a private company who says we do not support this kind of rhetoric from our employees. Well within their rights to do this. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna agree with you 100%.
All right. Well, let me tell you something that's quite interesting. Parents who are paying thousands of dollars a year for their child to go to a religious private institution, they were handled in the most egregious way. So let me give you some background to this story. At a religious school in Boca Raton, the school's white leader is caught on camera. Now, this is supposed to be the man of God. The man of God is caught on camera screaming at black parents of a student that attends the institution. That leader, identified as Brother Daniel Albin, is heard on camera ordering that the Boca Raton police be called to the scene of something that wasn't even a crime. The reason why he wanted them to come to the scene is because the parents arrived to obtain the child's distance learning schedule and his parking pass. Dear Brother Albin decides on the spot that he is now going to permanently expel the student. The family believes this is because the student is black. Here's the video.
Hey, shut that off. Call the police, please.
First of all, sir.
Call the police.
First of all, sir, nobody's being.
Call the police. She's videotaping me. Shut that off now.
Nobody. See,
I'm not
raising
leaving
your
with you.
voice again. Who raised you?
I am not.
You're a man of God and you raise your voice at a woman? Who raised you, bro? Who raised you? You call yourself a man of God? You call yourself a man of God and you raise your voice at a woman? You raise your voice at your wife like that?
Everybody,
I'm not your child.
I'm your son, and I'm doing that now.
I'm not your child.
He no longer goes to school.
I'm not your child.
He's no longer goes to school here.
I'm not your child.
The school called us. Maybe, I want to hear your side of the story. What's going on?
My son was instructed not to come back to school until he has a negative COVID test.
Okay.
So we left him home. We came here today to get his schedule and his parking pass.
Okay.
As soon as the young man came out, and I have it recorded, he must have, no, we're gonna stay right here.
Okay.
He must have assumed that we were here for what occurred yesterday about my son. I left my son home. So he immediately started screaming at us and said, I don't know why you're here, leave.
Let's put up a picture of this man of God so you can see him clearly, okay? That's Brother Daniel Albin. There he is. The woman talking is the mother. Her name is Kayleigh. Kayleigh is also an attorney at law, okay? She's an attorney at law. These parents were not being disruptive. These parents were being responsible, practicing the COVID mandate of the institution. These parents went there to be responsible to their child and get the distance learning package that must be picked up so that the child can keep up with the rest of the peers at the school. But this guy comes out, guns blazing, yelling at the parents, and then the power trip of saying that, oh, now your child is expelled, can no longer attend this institution. You mean to tell me these parents are paying for you to treat them and their child like this? You're paying money to be here. Those parents are paying money to have this level of treatment. Miss Early said she received a call from the Palm Beach Diocese School Superintendent, Gary Gallo. That was on Saturday morning, who offered to reverse the expulsion. Oh, that is just so kind of them. We are going to reverse what he did. But until Brother Albin is disciplined, she said she's unsure what the right move is for her child. Oh, I have a recommendation. I have a damn good recommendation. Lawsuit, discriminatory practices. Let's put up a picture of Brother Daniel Albin again. He is president of St. Paul II Academy. You saw how he acted. You saw exactly how he spoke, not only to the mother, but to the father here. You saw his attitude. Now, here's why that's important. I'm a former high school teacher, current college professor. I know one thing. Leadership, especially in academic settings, leadership matters supremely. When you have a leader like that, imagine who he hires. Imagine who he protects. Imagine who he supports. Imagine what he supports. Dina Dahl, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He sets the tone for the whole school. And these parents had, a right, even though this was private property, they had a reasonable expectation to be on this property since their son was enrolled and they were paying tuition. And I think it's questionable whether or not he was even legally able to just expel them outright. I'm sure they have some sort of due process rights around this. It is interesting though, because this is a private school and maybe their charter really does give just him the sole power to that. Whereas maybe a public school, you would have a lot more processes involved. But either way, what I was also struck by was the fact that he called the police. And we talk a lot about police interaction and how it often goes badly. And the mom here was so articulate, as you say, she was a lawyer. She did a great job explaining the situation. Not everybody would in that, because it could be very triggering to be called the police in a situation like that. But so I think it's like we don't need to just look at like police reform, but we need to look at like why people are calling the police, because once the police get involved, things can happen. And it's those people behind the phone call that we need to kind of take a look at. And here he was, like you said, he was in charge of students. Yeah. What are these students being taught? How are they going to be raised as adults? Are they going to then call on police on these types of matters? Because all the students heard about this.
Oh, absolutely.
If he doesn't come out and apologize, they're going to all think this is justified, and we're going to have 1,000 kids maybe going and doing this, and that problem just gets spread even further.
Remember, when you call the police, you calling a gun. That's what you're calling. When you call the cops, you're calling a gun to the situation because you believe obviously a gun needs to handle this. So when this president of the school decided to order another staff member, because he doesn't do his own dirty work, he ordered a staff member, call the police, right? In his mind, somehow, a conflict, which is really a non-existent conflict if he would have listened, a conflict between two black parents in reference to a black child does not warrant his attention. It warrants him calling the police. If he would have simply taken the moment to listen to what they were trying to tell him, he would know the child is not at the school. There is no argument about the child being at the school. They were not trying to get the child back in school. They were following the protocol as designed and laid out by the institution. But he didn't give them even that benefit. He did not give them that level of courtesy. And these are black people who are paying for him to be oppressive. They are literally financing their own oppression through this institution. I'll let you have the last words on it.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And you could see that actually in the video with the police officers, that they clearly didn't want to be there, but that is their job, is to go where they are called. And so we need to, police reform, yes, but we need to do deeper reform so the police aren't obligated to come to situations like this because it is their job.
Yeah, let's do something. Let's put his picture up again. All right, it's coming. Look at that smile. And the guy is held inside of a Christian school, treating people like they all are beneath him. Shame on this individual. We're going to follow the story because a few things need to happen now. The Palm Beach Diocese school superintendent says, okay, what the person did, what this president did was wrong. We are going to offer to reverse expelling the student. But here's what really needs to happen. A full apology, not just from the covering organization, but directly from Daniel Aubin, the president of that school. There needs to be a full apology. Secondly, I would also argue that they, as an institution, they should implement some true design in the curriculum to make sure that there's a level of diversity in the training and the curriculum, not only of the staff, but also of the students. All right, that's my take on it. And hell, the mother who's an attorney may just sue them. Okay, all right, we got more on the other side. It is indisputable, stick and stay.
Oh shoot. I need some fresh shirts. Okay. Let's see. New arrivals. What's new? This is amazing. What?
Thank you, user. I have now injected my code into Shop2YT. Proceeds from this shirt will benefit me directly.
When you were growing up, what did you want to be?
I think I was starting to think I don't want to do one thing, and I did live up to that.
Well, mission accomplished then, because Dave was a geologist.
Yeah.
And now he's, helped found the Young Turks. Even within TYT, you've done a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So if you want to do different things, you nailed it. All right, last story to end on is a Dave story. Whenever there was something like obvious, glaring, he would go up and ask them about it. Like it'd be like a giant church, right? And somebody's standing in front of it. The usual Dave go, pull up right in front of him. Be like, hey, do you know where there's a church around here? And they're like, dude, right here. It's right here.
Practical jokes. Spice up life a little.
Welcome to Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. I'm Brett Ehrlich, and this is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. The Trump administration, Trump mandated Trump, that Trump, every Trump, other Trump, word Trump, be Trump, Trump.
Our generation actually has a voice to say who we want.
For the first time ever, we are the biggest voting bloc in America.
One of the people we've been talking about for months and months will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years.
And for a lot of us, this is the first time that we're ever going to vote.
Do you have any idea how much of a difference 4 years makes?
The action that we take right now doesn't just affect us right now.
Discussion is important, but words aren't the only thing. You have to take action.
So that we can actually affect real change instead of just talking about it.
Get out there and take a part in making a difference.
Every voice really does matter, whether young or old, especially young people. Get out there and vote, damn it.
Now, more than ever, we can make a change.
I'm gonna vote because I want this country to be different. I don't want the older generation to decide our future.
I want to make this world a better place for my son. You can make change.
Vote IRL. Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote Earl.
Vote in real life.
Vote IRL.
Can we eat in here?
Joe Crowley is congressman from New York. He's very powerful, arguably one of the top Democrats in the House. But there's someone finally challenging him, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The election is today. If she wins, David beats Goliath.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has defeated Joe Crowley.
You made that happen. You're David. You just beat Goliath tonight. 2018 is a warm-up act. Wait till you get a load of 2020.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of comments. Let's get to it. I'm a damn lib says, oh, that tennis club was waiting for an excuse to dump this dude. It looked like it. And it also looked like he was using a profile pic from 1988. Did anybody catch that? Okay. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon says, my guess is that they offered to reverse the expulsion when they learned the young man's mother is a lawyer. Yeah. YouTube super chat. Maxaro says, only lost his job in Germany, saying something like that would get you 6 months in prison quick. It sure will, actually. Okay, my poet, Kelly O'Hara. Yelling Hail Hitler should never be in style. People should stop spewing that bile. This racist trope is so tired, and I'm glad he got fired. Hashtag by Adolf. Bars. Thank you for that, Kelly. Mickey and my crafts. My father warned me when I was 9 years old that there are a lot of Christians, in quotations, hypocrites in the GOP. Now that I'm 61 years old, I realize my father was a political prophet. Yeah, glad you know that now. Marianne Kelly says, I grew up in Boca. It's high class racist. All right. Is it Jago De Rogue? How is a principal of St. Paul treating Paul's people like this? That's fancy. Okay, David Morris, love how the doc drills the image of the suspect into our minds. Put up his picture. Yeah. Lord Harlock, Twitch. And is anyone surprised by any of this? The most pious of organizations are riddled with extremists like this guy. Osborne says, religious male Karen. I mean, yes, the Karenicity definitely runs deep in him. And Sarah Carolina 88, the fact that he could just expel a student with a sentence is disgusting and absurd. And remember, if he's talking to parents like this, how do you think he treats students? Okay, all right, next story. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan West, okay? A Republican darling of the conservative movement. His wife got arrested for a suspected DWI. This is so interesting because this is Mr. Pro-Police, Mr. Systemic racism does not exist, Alan West, okay? On Monday, Dallas police actually defended their arrest of his wife. Her name is Angela Graham West. Alan West is running for governor of Texas. The arrest was for intoxicated driving. According to the Texas Tribune, at a press conference, the police chief, Garcia, showed a video of his wife at a traffic stop on Friday, a field sobriety test and arrest. He gave a few details when asked about what portions of the field sobriety test Graham West might have failed. Here's a portion, it's a 19-minute video. We had to shorten it, but here's a portion of it.
So would you be willing to blow your breath into this?
Sure.
Okay. So have you ever blown air into a balloon before?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, so it's like the same concept, okay?
You're giving me a breathalyzer?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
So it's just gonna let me know if you've had any alcohol today, okay? So pretty much it's the same concept. It's blowing air into a balloon.
What did I do other than not switch lanes without? I mean, just give me a citation. You've put me through all of this now.
So.
All right, fine.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hold it. All right. So all you gotta do is take a deep breath. So, ma'am, you say you have a child in the backseat of your car? Is it your child or someone else?
My grandson.
It's your grandson? Okay. Is there anyone that could come pick him up?
Why? What's going on?
Is there anyone that you could call like right now to come pick him up?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me who that person could be? Who
The
person?
parents.
Parents. All right. So it's gonna be a 30. All right.
A 30.
So, ma'am, can you just take a step forward for me?
Yes.
Can you put your hands behind your back for me?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, where does the parents live? Where are they at? Where's that at? Okay, here's the deal. I mean, we want to work with you, right? Because you're being arrested for DWI, okay? The thing is we need to do something with your child, because if we don't, I got to take the kid to CPS, and that's not what you want. So find somebody, give you
Yeah, she got arrested for DWI, suspected of DWI. She went to jail, she got booked. Grandchild was in the car. A parent had to come pick up that grandchild. This all happened in front of the grandchild. The breathalyzer did not register her as intoxicated. It came back inconclusive. Blood work was taken later. That blood work has not come back yet. I actually don't think she was intoxicated. I could be wrong, but I don't think it will come back that she was intoxicated. But she did get arrested, and I feel bad for her because she's married to this guy.
I gotta tell you, I'm highly pissed off right now. It's a little bit about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was down in Waco, Texas, having dinner with Ted Nugent and some other people. And I got back to Dallas to find out that someone had arrested my wife, Angela, when she had my grandson, Jackson, in the backseat of the car and charged her with quote unquote suspected DUI. And now I'm down here at the Dallas County Jail. They won't allow me to see Angela. They're saying that there's nothing I can do. They will not allow me to see a supervisor. Angela, and I've talked to people that had dinner with her at PF Chang's here in Dallas. She had water and lemonade. This is crap. No, I support the Thin Blue Line, but this is insidious. They put my grandson at risk, at jeopardy, left him with a couple of police officers, and carted his grandmother into jail when she had water and lemonade. That's what witnesses said. They were with her at dinner, water and lemonade for dinner. I'm beyond livid, and I'm telling you something. The Dallas County Sheriff's Office, the Dallas Police Chief, I want an explanation of this. I want to know who arrested my wife for quote unquote suspected DUI when she had water and lemonade and her breathalyzer test came up negative.
He can't say it. He can't say it. He can't go there and say it. He can't say police out of control. He can't say my wife should have been given the benefit of the doubt. He can't say it should have been a conclusive breathalyzer before you lock up a grandmother and take her grandchild away. He can't say it. He can't talk about systemic racism, prejudice in the system of law enforcement. They can't do it. But what he can do is tell you he just had dinner with Ted Nugent. He can tell you that. How in the hell are you in the middle of a damn tragedy, Alan West, and you're going on your live, well, I just had dinner with Ted Nugent, and they have arrested my wife. I am livid. Just got off the phone with Ted Nugent, and he's livid too. You're campaigning, buddy. You don't fool me, okay? You know good and damn well why your wife was not given the benefit of the doubt. And don't hit me with where one black officer was involved. Systemic racism is an institutional element inside of these industries of law and justice. Your wife, I believe, sir, your wife should have been given the benefit of the doubt here. There's some background to this story that needs to be exposed. But you're outraged over your personal incident while invalidating the systemic incidents that happen to black and brown people all across the United States of America. Miss me with it. I'm not covering this story because of you, Alan West. I'm covering it because it's the right story to cover. I'm not covering this story because it just happened to you or to your wife. I'm covering this story because it's within the context of a significant bias that happens against, in particular, black women in situations like this. Let's get down to the rest of the story, okay? The affidavit that attorney Todd Shapiro provided to the Tribune claims that Graham West, that is the wife, 61 years of age, showed signs of intoxication during portions of the field sobriety test. Shapiro attributed the failures in the field sobriety test to a brain aneurysm that Graham West had experienced behind her right eye a few years ago. Shapiro told the Texas Tribune, this is a quote, she told the officer about it being the aneurysm, and there's no mention anywhere in talking about the report, probable cause affidavit that this woman had some health issues that could affect her performance or mask themselves as signs of intoxication. Now, typically, if you let an officer know that you have a particular medical condition that could express itself as if you cannot properly pass a sobriety test, even if you get arrested, it is supposed to be noted, okay? According to the probable cause affidavit that Shapiro provided to the Tribune, the officer approached the vehicle and smelled a scent of alcohol coming from within the car and said Graham West's eye was bloodshot. The officer observed that Graham West's reaction times were delayed and she seemed confused. Now, I also want to note, a receipt was provided. Alan West literally was able to provide a receipt that showed his wife did not have any alcohol with her dinner that night. He provided literal receipts for that. The affidavit also noted her appearance as further evidence of intoxication, which Shapiro called shaky. Shapiro also said Graham West went and got a 5-panel instant urinalysis test Monday morning that also included an alcohol test. He said it showed up 0 presence of drugs or alcohol. The alcohol test traces back to 80 hours, okay? Graham West attributed her driving to her listening to her GPS. And it was also said that she had been on the phone with someone. Mike Matta, president of the Dallas Police Association, defended the officer's actions and said Lieutenant Colonel West thinks that he is special. Let me go back to and say that again. The police union has told pro-police Republican gubernatorial candidate, Mr. Systemic racism does not exist. We need to always protect the police. He said, the police union said, Lieutenant Colonel West thinks that he is special, that he should get certain treatments that every other citizen doesn't get. Is it because he's a politician? Is it because he's running for governor? Well, that's not how it goes. We believe in fair and equal treatment under the law. They're all turning. They're showing you who you are, brother. We've always been trying to show you who they are. Now you're in the situation where they're showing you who you are to them, who your wife is to them. How does it feel? Now will you see the light, become an advocate for social justice, tell the truth about systemic racism in America? Stop defending the senseless and chaotic actions of police officers that violate the rights of citizens? Or will you just run for governor and try to figure out how to fit into a system that doesn't even want you? Ms. Dahl, what are your thoughts here?
Well, my thoughts are that I think we should be electing more empathetic leaders, because the fact is that sadly this happens a lot, that if it doesn't happen to you or to somebody you know, then it doesn't matter. And we see this also with climate change, right? Republicans are starting to care about that more because it's happening in their district. Or COVID, when it was starting to happen in the red states, they start to speak out more. We need to care when we see it happening to others. You know, I mean, Alan West, he's gonna start caring about this a lot more.
We'll see.
Whether or not he starts talking about it in public or just privately, he's gonna be looking at this much differently. But like you said, it shouldn't have been it shouldn't have only been because it's happening to one of his family members. You should be able to see what's happening to people around you and empathize and be curious and want to know. And if the people we're electing aren't able to be like that, then why are you in public service?
That's right.
Like you said, he was using this to promote himself. And I think that kind of says everything about the kind of leaders, unfortunately, a lot of the people who are running these days.
Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free. Back off.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Out of the street, don't touch me.
Hey, touch you.
You just ran over me. You just ran over my phone. You're tired. No, you're not. You're right here. You ran over my foot.
Don't touch me, baby.
You just touched me, you bunch of thugs. You bitch.
White ass.
How do you think you
Get the
Who did? That guy in the red. Yeah, right behind this guy. You
losers.
You ran over my foot. You guys keep moving.
Dumbass.
And this guy right now.
I'll be on the news. Y'all gonna make the news.
That's fine.
All right. Idiots. Y'all stupid. Listen, you stupid. Put that gun to my head, stupid bitch.
Okay, we got two Karens here. One, the male Karen, he's calling these children the N-word. Some of these children were as young as 11 years of age when this incident happened. Also, I want to remind you, this was a Bikes Up, Guns Down protest. Bikes Up, Guns Down, okay? The incident took place at Miami's Brickell Avenue Bridge on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, in 2019. When a group of teens rode their bicycles to the bridge as part of Bikes Up, Guns Down to protest the lack of affordable housing in the city. Some of the protesters were as young as 11 years old. All right, let's put up a very clear picture of the male Karen here who decided to threaten, have a weapon, and to call these children the N-word. His name is Mark Bartlett. There he is, Mark Bartlett. Okay. Cops eventually cuffed the man on January 21st, 2019, and found his loaded gun in his car. He asked for a trial by jury on January 22nd, 2019, and pleaded not guilty on February 19th, 2019. Bruce H. Lair, Bartlett's lawyer, filed a motion earlier this year for statutory immunity. Are you kidding me? Statutory immunity from criminal prosecution and civil action on justifiable use of force. Bartlett is now currently pushing for a stand your ground defense. Miami, that's where he's at. Ms. Dahl, you're an attorney at law. What are your thoughts here?
Well, he actually is charged with quite a bit. 5 felony counts relating to his weapon, 3 counts of aggravated assault with prejudice. That's his only defense that he could claim, right? And if a judge decides that there's an issue of fact here and this goes to jury, it's very possible that a jury in Florida might agree with him, which is really sad. And another thing here that's interesting is we know the new law that was passed in Florida by the governor, this anti-mob, anti-protesting law, which would have complicated this issue even more because although it probably is a violation of free speech and freedom to assemble, he carrying a firearm would have had even more enhancements. But also those boys on their bikes blocking the street would have been criminally prosecuted. So I think it's also important for us to see as chaotic and really awful the situation is, this new Florida law is gonna make protests like this so much worse, and it's gonna criminalize peaceful protests in a way that we have never seen in this country.
You make a remarkable point, and we've been covering the insane law, the protest law that was passed in Florida and signed into law on the day of the verdict of Derek Chauvin, the killer of George Floyd. That was a code from DeSantis, the governor of Georgia, the governor of Florida, to let everybody know why he was creating and signing this bill. But you're right. If this would have been the law during that time, the law would have said these children are the criminals. And the man who is the in fact criminal was the victim. That's why leadership matters. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
They had things, levels of voting that if you ever agreed to it, you'd never have a Republican elected in this country again.
We don't run our own country. We've lost our democracy, and all we have left is rage.
We're the Democrats. I would be on every cable news channel screaming and yelling and talking about what the Republicans are doing right now.
How do you expect us to get excited to show up to the polls for these loser Democrats? How come we have nothing but cowards? We'll never fight. Primaries are everything.
Building a great wall on the southern border.
You have politicians who fearmonger about disenfranchised groups.
The first attacker came through the visa lottery.
Now they are against legal immigrants.
Ending chain migration.
They don't want people from those countries coming here because they're fucking racist. This guy's an absolute monumental disgrace to all of us as Americans.
Stop treating us like animals and bugs and start treating us with some respect.
That is what I was warning about for literally years on this program. This is what they promised they would do if they got into power. And what do you know? They did it.
I've now shown dozens of videos on the Young Turks of cops handcuffing people who are bleeding to death. His life means nothing. We have been trained to be cowards, so we're gonna handcuff that guy bleeding to death.
When it comes to these protesters who are justifiably enraged at members of their community getting gunned down and murdered by police force.
We are a physical representation of our support for George Floyd.
He said that this was impossible, but now we're beginning to move that boulder. And at the end, we'll get our democracy back. Primary the living hell out of these Democrats, and let's take over the party. That's a ghost ship. Let's board it, and let's take it.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Damage Report, another week of the news. I am John Iadarola, and we've got a doozy of a show for you. My God, is DC up its own ass today. We have put someone into power in our country who is so crazy, they have finally out-crazied North Korea.
The US is the only country in the world that isn't part of the Paris Climate Accord.
Yesterday, Donald Trump did exactly what he told us. He pulled the US out of the Iran nuclear accord.
So we need to see snuff videos of how you're killing people on the streets in order for you to believe us that this has been a problem. We need to change things.
I was gonna say we've been dealing with the issue of lead poisoning in this country, but that would imply that we're really doing something. We have an issue with lead poisoning and it continues. So 60 people are now dead. Some of them grandmothers, many of them children. The silence of politicians on both sides of the aisle. Just about only Bernie Sanders, maybe Tulsi Gabbard, and a few others have actually been critical of what happened there. And the rest are cowards hiding behind silence, refusing to admit what happened yesterday.
We have to be able to accept that we do things wrong in this country. You can fix and change things, make things even.
What's great about our country, and this is a great example of it, is everybody's pissed off. This is the Damage Report, and it's all about the threats facing us each day. When something's relevant, and it's hot, and it's in the news, you're not supposed to talk about it. Can we start talking about it now?
I often think about the terror that my grandmother was under till she was 8 or 9 years old, and how horrific that experience must have been in this state of discomfort for the benefit of other people.
People will still treat you like you're the problem. That's what we mean when we say living well black. We're just trying to live our best life. We're trying to be the best that we can be, and we're frustrated and tired of people treating us like we're criminals.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of show left, okay? Let me go to some of these viewer comments. Thank you all for engaging with the show. TYT member, Bernie Bro with the vagina says, Alan West is absolute trash. Dude disowned his daughter for being gay. Cray Cray Souffle says, welcome to Texas, Alan West. And this is just a reminder, you're still black. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. Notice how he had to throw in that he had dinner with Ted Nugent, trying to increase his importance. Right. Ted won't save you, brother. YouTube super chat. R. King 1 Garcia says, I have a neurological disorder that is progressive, and I wouldn't have been able to pass a sobriety test in the past 20 years. Reggie Barris, thank you so much for that. Gonzalez, it's amazing what people are willing to throw under the bus for their own career goals. Yep. On the Truth Dragon, NJ09, she tried to Emmett Till some kid, no longer a Karen, but a racist SOB without the cutesy name. To hell with that. Courtney, the SLP. Florida is in the news literally every day for something foolish. Literally. Jim Garcia, Miami trash. Florida does not have an open carry law in Miami. He is brandishing and should go to jail, but DeSantis will pardon him. That is a real possibility. Dormat 9, scratch mark says, standard conservative response, it's not okay when it happens to me. That's right. That's the standard response. Trekkie 21, now that it hit his family, Alan West cares about how police treat people. I mean, he's deeply concerned now. You're right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, a school teacher had a Black Lives Matter banner in her classroom. Well, the school decided to discipline her, put her under investigation for unrelated mess, and then they put her in the warehouse. Clear retaliation, right? Well, that school system now has to pay her $300,000. Let me bring your attention to this new settlement in the Duval County school system. The Duval County School Board will pay a former high school teacher who displayed a Black Lives Matter flag over her classroom door $300,000 to settle a lawsuit from earlier this year. Let's put up a picture of this nice young teacher. Her name is Amy Donofrio. There she is, a remarkable teacher. I've done a lot of research on her, very proud of her, by the way. She's a former Riverside High School teacher, then Lehigh. She said she was unfairly removed from her teaching position in March. She made national news saying administrators told her to take down the Black Lives Matter flag and that had been hanging over her doorway. She refused. She said no. The district temporarily reassigned her to warehouse operations and said she was being investigated for several matters. Okay, that is what they do to effective school teachers like her. And I'm going to get into why she was so effective. The Southern Poverty Law Center, who represented Donofrio, said the reassignment was an effort on the school district's behalf to retaliate against the teacher and also violated her right to free speech, okay? This is her with some of her students. She's a very engaged school teacher. I got that from a Facebook page, okay? This month, the Duval School Board voted to reach a settlement with Donofrio that would prevent the case from a years-long court process that could potentially cost millions of dollars. Though we know we haven't done anything wrong, these are taxpayer dollars, according to a board member, Warren Jones. Separately, her teaching contract was not renewed with the Duval schools. Records show that the school board agreed to pay a $300,000 settlement with $240,000 going to Ms. Donofrio and the remaining $60,000 going to her attorneys. Now, let me bring you to an organization that she works with. It's called EVAC, EVAC, okay? EVAC is Cave Backwards, and it is a reference to Plato's allegory of the cave. A story of prisoners chained in a cave since birth until a liberator enters to unbind their chains and lead them to the light, tasking them with the responsibility to return to liberate others. This is a peer-led organization. Young people run this organization. They run it. It is peer supported, peer led, right? Well, this remarkable teacher, she's a catalyst for this organization. Every year in her high school leadership class, this teacher, this amazing, remarkable, and engaged school teacher who was retaliated against, she has students read The Cave, analyze the chains created by their traumatic experiences and how to break free. And doing so, students in our class began bravely sharing their stories, bonding in realizing their shared experiences with violence, loss, racism, and the justice system. I got that information from their website, evacmovement.com. Remarkable work they are doing. And this school teacher is connected to all of this. Ms. Dahl, what are your thoughts here? Retaliation is a no-no. She got paid for it. They're saying that they aren't admitting to doing anything wrong. How do you see it?
Well, people only really pay out lawsuits when they know that it's least likely they would lose in court. And the reason why they would, we're talking about free speech a lot today, is that she has a protected free speech, and that's what that sign is. The school does have an argument because it is a little bit more, schools are able to restrict free speech a little bit more if they claim that it interferes with the education. Most of the case law actually has to do with students, not teachers. But my former professor, the constitutional scholar Erwin Chemerinsky, says it very well. You know, how are students, if a school is supposed to teach free speech and also simultaneously deny free speech, right? And that's kind of like a question here is legally, they were probably not able to do this, why they paid out. But why were they trying to restrict this free speech? You know, how are you teaching the children to be able to speak out and protest certain things when they're gonna fire a teacher for doing exactly that?
Yeah, very well said. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring one more story to your attention. This is so sad. Now, I'm going to blur the pictures here because I'm a decent person. Other people online, they have not blurred these young people who are engaging in acts of racism. I want to remind you that young people can be mean, but their parents can be evil. They learned it from somewhere. Let's just go to the video first. Let me explain to you what you're seeing, okay? This is now a deactivated Instagram account made by students at Salinas High School in California. It has led to outrage and demands for swift discipline. The account had photos and videos of students defacing a black baby doll they named Shaniqua, okay? They beat it, they defaced it, ridiculed it. Oh, it was massive. And it was done pretty openly. According to the Daily Dot, a Twitter user posted a Twitter thread containing screenshots from the Instagram account, which was called Shaniqua.shs. And dedicated to the doll. In the pictures, the black doll has his eyes, eyebrows, and mouth painted white. It also has scribble marks drawn all over his face, as well as an ankle monitor drawn on it, all right? Here's a picture of the doll. Okay, very sad. As a reminder, they're learning this from somewhere. Here's another picture of that Instagram account they created for this doll. To beat it and to be mean. They learned it from somewhere. According to KSBW Action News 8, let's get into this other picture too. Let me put up this other graphic, all right, with the blurred face of the cheerleader, okay? The doll was brought out during Friday's football jamboree. At the game, cheerleaders took pictures of the doll. And by the weekend, the video of the doll had gone viral and was the talk all over social media. By the weekend, a full investigation had been launched into the matter. And by Monday, District Superintendent Dan Burns said the person who initiated the incident had been identified. Okay, that's fine. But that person who initiated it obviously had a lot of support, all right? This is horrible, this is sad. We're running out of time, but Ms. Dahl, if you could quickly analyze this, what are your thoughts about it socially?
You know, my thoughts are students are captive audiences. Let's help them while we can. Have school counselors devoted solely to these racial incidences. I hope this high school institutes programs to eradicate this, because these children were not the only ones who believe this in that school. We know that. Let's do something before they become adults.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you on Indisputable.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We got more on the other side. Stick and stay.
You know, old school's pitched to me from Jank. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps f***ing cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong, I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times. Yuck.
But what makes you stop right before 40? You know, what makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the you said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. And there's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
I heard of it. I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not f***ing, Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the three of us.
This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough.
Kingsley.
See, I watch movies.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Craig starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just gonna ask you about getting high.
Snoogans, Snoochie Boochies.
And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join and free trial.
I'm old school with the old folks.
Good.
John, come back.
Field goal here. It's time to switch to beer.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Do your best.
He's a little like
Oh. No one's happy now.
Give him another try.
Oh.
Wow. This is the weirdest game.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's gonna be more impressive than that. I can also spin a basketball on my finger. While drinking. I'm gonna spin a basketball on my finger while drinking apple juice. You can do this, dude. It's also flat. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And it seems to be somewhat wobbly. Ta-da! Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope. Oh God, I'm so mad.
Welcome back. We got a lot of viewer comments. Let me read some of these comments. Thank you all for always being so engaging with the program. TYT member Rob says, why can't we pay teachers like that what they are worth? Exactly. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. WTF, OMG? That goes beyond just hateful. The violence exhibited is frightening. Those kids need to be given psych evaluations, and so do the parents. Okay. YouTube super chat. Bernard the Kiwi Dragon says, of course it happens in Florida. Virtually 9 out of 10 times is either Florida or Texas. What can you expect when they vote Ron DeSantis for governor? Nicole Smith says, if they'd have been black, brandishing a weapon at a white pride rally, they would not have survived, let alone be free to defend themselves 2 years later. And just think about the optics of that. Think about if a black male got out of his vehicle brandishing a handgun with 11-year-old white children. Totally different narrative, totally different response, okay? All right, Sweet Pea says, TikTok, IG, social media, 5 minutes of fame and the need to be in the spotlight is their downfall. Oh, thank you for that. Is Donna Frio. Thank you for that, Alex. All right, rainy days, future leaders. Yeah, not so much, right? Derek, welcome to tier 1. Okay, Twitch. Captain Cornball. Is it Cornball? Yeah. Riverside High School, formerly Lee High. I wonder which Mr. Lee that high school in the South used to be named after. I'll give you one guess, okay? Spoonie 6157 Chi-Town. We need more teachers like Amy Donofrio. Yes. Butch Dream Daddy. I'm not saying that again, Butch. It's one time, all right? I love this show. Thank you so much. We love you back, Butch, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, we have Ashley St. Clair, author of Elephants Are Not Birds and director of operations at Arsenal Media Group. Ms. St. Clair, thank you for being on the show. How are you?
Good, how are you, Dr. Ritchie?
I'm doing quite well. We're going to chop it up about a few items. Hopefully we get to all of them. Let's start with the anti-vax, anti-mask movement in the United States of America. I don't want to presume what you believe about these items, so I will simply ask you to give me your context and your background as it relates to the anti-vax and anti-mask movement.
I think my take would be really simple. I don't think that the government should be mandating vaccines or masks anywhere, and I'll leave it at that, especially what we're seeing in New York City to go into restaurants or things like that to have a vaccine passport. Especially me, I'm 7 months pregnant. I don't want to have to be forced to get something that I'm uncomfortable with, especially that I don't know the long-term effects on me and my baby right now. So I think that it's just something that it has gone too far with the government mandates, and it's as simple as that.
Okay, so let me say this. First of all, the government is not mandating that you receive a vaccination. A private company that says we would like to see a vaccine passport, well, that is a private company. Typically, you all do believe in private enterprise or the consumer driving that market for that private company. Private companies are able to enforce things like no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. Do you agree with companies having the right to enforce those particular rules as it relates to their consumers on their private property?
Of course. Are you familiar with what was passed in New York City?
No, go ahead, ma'am. You can go ahead and enlighten us.
Okay, so businesses are forced to, you have to have a vaccine to do recreational activity. So that's gone beyond private enterprise. This isn't, the movie theater decided, hey, we would prefer that our patrons have a vaccine if they come in. This was Mayor de Blasio saying, you need to have a vaccine if you want to enjoy these things.
Okay, let me bring your attention to something I find quite interesting. When you say that there should not be a mask mandate, typically we're talking about children. If you look at social media, the biggest debates and the most chaotic scenes are at school boards now. Who would have thought that school board meetings would have been so damn exciting, okay? So the fundamental question is, the first question is, do school boards even have the legal authority to mandate masks? What are your thoughts about that? Do you believe school boards have the legal authority to do so?
I think they can, but I don't think they should at all.
Okay.
I think those are two different questions, and I can't believe you can't see how school boards could get out of hand if you've ever been to a PTA meeting.
Listen, I'm a former high school teacher. I've been to a number of school boards. I've never seen school boards get this out of hand, though.
Yeah, and I don't think kids are not at risk. I really don't see the need for mandating masks on children. I just don't.
So let's talk about what kids are already mandated to do, right? So I agree with you that mask mandates are permissible for a school board to implement. Okay, we agree on that. You have more of a moral or ethical argument saying, but it's not pragmatic. It shouldn't be done, even though legally it can be.
Well, not even just pragmatic. It's wrong. I could curse you out on here and do whatever, but it would be wrong, correct? And I feel the same way about mask mandates on children. You just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should or that it's morally right.
Well, wrong means morally reprehensible. So you think having a mask mandate is in fact morally reprehensible?
I mean, if you want to equate my position to morally reprehensible because I think it's wrong, sure, you can go ahead and say that. I do think it's reprehensible to affect children in that way. The impacts it has on their learning, on their societal, on the way they're able to build relationships. I don't think we really know the full term effects of that yet.
All right, so let me do this first because we already have multiple mandates for children inside of school systems. Children do not have free reign to dress as they choose. They do not have free reign.
Well, let me be really clear too. Let me be really clear. I don't like the public school system in general. I think they go too far. I think they mandate too many things in general.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you about some of those mandates.
Go ahead.
Okay, children do not have the right to wear whatever they choose to wear. They cannot utilize whatever language they choose to utilize without penalty because of the environment of the school system. And also, currently, there are already mandates for vaccines for all of public education in the United States of America, and 92% of private institutions mandate a level of vaccination. So these are the common ones that are already mandated for measles, mumps, chickenpox, polio.
If you've done any research on me.
If you would, madam, I have not interrupted you. I'm gonna ask that you don't interrupt me, okay?
Totally, my apologies, go ahead.
Absolutely. So these are already mandated, polio, et cetera, and they've been mandated for decades inside of school systems throughout the United States of America. Do you have a fundamental issue with these vaccinations being already mandated, or do you just have an issue with a non-chemical being mandated, known as the mask, and you're okay with these chemical mandates that are already implemented in the school system?
No, I'm not okay with the other mandates either. If you've done any research on me, you know that I have tweeted I can't count how many times homeschool your kids for reasons just like this. And if you want to go back to what you said about, hey, you can't say whatever you want in school. Yeah, usually because kids can be mean, so they have anti-bullying things, things that cause harm. Whereas,
you can't use profanity either.
Yeah, because those things cause harm. Whereas not wearing a mask for kids does not really cause harm, especially if you look at the data on kids being harmed by COVID.
I don't know if you saw the latest report that came out yesterday by the CDC that said that the increase in COVID-19 among children has increased to a staggering rate. Experts are saying it is going to get worse. Look at Alabama, for example. In 1 week, Alabama had to hospitalize over 50 children. 1 week. We went months without hospitalizing any children before the variant came. Once the variant came, it impacted children in a way that the first rendering of COVID did not. Excuse me. So you can't say that the science is on your side with this. Also, masks bring down the spread of COVID-19 from 40 to 60%. And if they are worn properly, it brings it down by 90%. Once again, that's a safety issue inside of the school system. So you can't argue that children are now not being impacted by this, what I call DeSantis variant. They are being impacted by it in ways that they were not impacted by the original COVID. So tell me, how do you reconcile the numbers here? Because the science is saying that this variant is much more severe for children than the original COVID-19.
What is the death rate for children? Could you inform me on that?
So only if children die should this be an issue.
Because it's not dangerous. Children are not dying from this. They're getting sick, yes, just like they do with the flu. There's lots of kids who are hospitalized with the flu. There's nothing wrong with that. I think the impacts of children having to wear masks are much more dangerous than kids getting sick. And
so
how many of these cases of children being hospitalized? First of all, anybody who goes to the hospital is considered hospitalized. You're very rarely are you turned away from the hospital. So
no,
how
that's
many
incorrect.
of these are?
You're incorrect. No. That's not how the data. No, that is not how the CDC codified the data.
So what is the hospitalization? What is defined as a hospitalization?
I'm glad you asked the question. I will explain it to you clearly. When you're hospitalized, that means that you have been admitted by the medical staff to be observed. Okay, going to
Correct.
a hospital.
I've been admitted for a UTI before.
Madam, you asked me a question, madam. I'm trying to give you clarity and answer it. Being hospitalized does not mean you went to the hospital. Being hospitalized does not mean you went to the ER or even saw a doctor. The way the data is codified, being hospitalized means that you were admitted by medical staff for further treatment and observation. That's what that means. So let's talk about the severity of COVID-19. The severity of COVID-19 for this is this with children. So while they're not dying at the rate of adults, those with underlying issues especially are at risk of death, and those who do not have underlying issues are suffering from respiratory issues for the rest of their life. More than likely, they will never be able to fully recover their respiratory issue based on their COVID interaction. The issue is this: inside of a school system, will wearing a mask decrease the transmission of COVID? That's a simple question.
I don't believe that. I believe that the impacts of masks are worse.
That's a different argument, and I will get to that argument in a moment, in all due respect. My only question for this part of the argument.
I don't know that it's effective, because what I've read is that the only mask that's effective is N95. Should we mandate N95s for all these kids? Because half the kids I see are wearing cloth ones that they got at TJ Maxx.
Okay, so your rebuttal is that it is not effective. Now, I do find this quite interesting, because the place where you get your data as far as the death rate of children is concerned is the same place where I get my data as it relates to the effectiveness of wearing masks. So you accept one data set from that same organization, the CDC, but you reject the data set that says you decrease the spread of COVID when you do wear a covering on your face.
No, now, I just said the one that was effective is an N95. Most of these kids are not wearing N95s; they're wearing cloth ones from Target or TJ Maxx.
Okay, so you would be okay with the school system mandating that?
No, no, I don't think they should mandate it, even if it is effective in slowing the spread of COVID-19.
Even if it's effective?
Correct. Even if it would be effective in slowing the spread of the flu, I don't think kids should be masked for that reason. This is not the argument here. I don't think they should wear them. Even if it's effective, I don't think they should be wearing them.
Do you think we are in uncharted territory with COVID?
To an extent, and I think it relies that question. The answer is dependent on where you think COVID came from.
And where do you think it came from?
I genuinely believe that this was something that came from China, from Wuhan.
Okay, and tell me, why does that matter?
Because if there is, a foreign nation testing with biological weapons, it is something that we need to take more seriously. And I think that's why we did take it more seriously in the beginning.
So we need to take it more seriously, right?
No, that's not what I said.
You didn't say we need to take it more seriously?
No, I said we took it more seriously in the beginning because we didn't know, and that's why China had locked down. And I think that scared us as well because of how insane China was about it. But then once more of this data came out and we found out that, hey, it's actually not as deadly as we once thought. We should ease restrictions. We should ease things like that. Okay. But yeah, at first, so many people were scared, and I think rightfully so, because we didn't know. But now that we have more data, we realize that this thing is not as deadly as we thought. It shouldn't be the madness that's going on now. It shouldn't be the lockdowns. It shouldn't be the mandates.
Let me ask you this. Are you a local government person? Do you believe that local government should have the right to make these decisions based on that community and what they're getting in their data based on science?
No, not always.
No, so you're not a local government person?
I like local government, but I don't, I believe local and federal government have their restrictions, and they can, power does corrupt. People tend to get high on power.
But mask is within government. Mask or a mask mandate by a school board is within the government authority. You already agreed to that. That's not drunk with power. That's
and I've already said that I don't. Two things: I don't think that they should, and I don't think that you should have your kids in public school.
What about those that don't have a choice, madam?
That is very unfortunate. That's really unfortunate.
It's just unfortunate.
And I think,
wait a minute.
Yes, I think, and I think they should fight back.
If they don't have a choice.
I think that's really unfortunate, and I think people need to get involved, and they need to run for their school boards.
Madam, the school board, madam, you just told people to get involved. You're all over the place. You told people to get involved and run for their school board. School board, they oversee what? What do they oversee?
The school, you're talking about people who don't have a choice but to put their kids in school, correct?
The school board, you're telling people to run for school board. What does the school board oversee?
The school.
The school board oversees public education.
Correct.
So why are you telling people to take all of their children out of public education, but to run for a board that literally only oversees public education?
That's definitely unfair. I'm talking about the people who you said don't have a choice but to put their kids in school. If you have a choice to take your kids out, take them out.
So the solution for
and if you don't, make sure that you're more involved. Then, if you can't keep your kids out of public school, be more involved.
Your solution
I think you're absolutely misrepresenting my ideas.
No, I'm confused by it. I'm trying to get clarity though. I'm not misrepresenting anything.
I think that's pretty clear. I think that's pretty clear.
Okay. Let me go to a point that I wanted to discuss with you, the flu versus COVID. I hear this comparison being made a lot, that this is no more dangerous than the common flu. So let me give you just one statistic about the peak season for 1 week of the flu. We're talking about death rate is 700 plus. The peak season for death with COVID is 15 to 20,000 in 1 week. The death rate is not comparable. As far as the infection rate of the flu in the United States of America is 0.1%. The infection rate for COVID-19 is 1 to 3% depending on that region. So when you talk about the carnage that it creates and the severity of the symptoms as well as the number of dead bodies, is not comparable whatsoever. Then you start looking at the adverse impact that COVID has had on people's lives beyond the illness. Once again, not comparable to the flu at all. My only gesture to you and others is this: we don't fully know this virus yet. We're still dealing with the variant. The variant just got here. We may be dealing with another variant based on the experts, which means, once again, another mutation. The question is really simple. Because we don't have a handle of this, like people say, we don't. Why would we not listen to local school boards and simply allow them to make the decision based on the local science of what's happening to their own children? Why would we not listen to them as it relates to the safety and protection of their kids? Are we no longer believing in school teachers? We're not believing in the local elected representatives. Remember, you're telling people to run for school board, but the people that are on the school board who already ran for school board, who have to make decisions about that public school system, you all are adversarial to them.
So what is the question exactly?
Do you not think we should be cautious? That we should allow local boards to make this decision based on the science and data available to them?
Sure, they can make that decision, and the parents have the right to fight it and disagree with it. And I think, just like many other parents out there, that it's wrong. And I think it's unfair for you to conflate some of these COVID deaths when you're not talking about what percentage of them have comorbidities and different things like that. it's a lot more dangerous to be obese and be around COVID than to be a kid not wearing a mask.
You know, people make that argument a lot, and let me give you a humanist argument. You may have an underlying health condition right now.
Most people who are overweight do not have underlying health conditions.
Listen to me, please. You may, I may. We're still human beings. If COVID more so adversely affects
because if you wanted to save lives,
madam, I'm going to allow you to finish, and then I will respond. Go ahead. You finish.
If you wanted to save lives, if you wanted people to be safe, you would tell them to care about their health, to eat right, to lose weight, because you have such a higher risk of dying from COVID if you're overweight.
I do. I tell people to be healthy. I do. All right. You ready for my response?
Lose weight.
Yeah. I tell people we should be healthy.
Are
you
we
ready for my response?
At all, because that's what I was pitched on coming on here.
Say what now?
Are we going to talk about gender at all? Because that's what I was pitched on coming on here.
Madam, I'm looking at the production notes. It says anti-vax, anti-mask, and LGBTQ.
Great. So we didn't hit on that last one at all, right?
Wait a minute. Is that what you have in your production notes or not?
Yes.
Okay. So you weren't pitched just to come on my show to talk about gender, correct?
Yes.
Am I right or wrong?
Yes, but we haven't touched on that at all, and I'm getting
okay because we got into the minutia of this mess about what you feel or believe children should be as far as mask mandates are concerned. That's how debates go. But let's go ahead and get into gender. Whatever you want to say about gender, say it. I just don't want you misrepresenting what we provided for you in the production notes, because we clearly said to you.
So I mean, were we going to hit on that?
Vaccines and LGBTQ. Sometimes we don't get to all the subjects, but go ahead.
So are we gonna hit, did you have anything prepared on that topic or?
Yeah, absolutely, go ahead.
Go ahead, I'll wait for you. You've asked me on each one.
Do you believe that the LGBTQ community should have the same rights as anybody else?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, was that what was prepared? Was that the lead in?
Ma'am, do you have anything to say or not? What's your point of view?
Because I feel like you didn't actually have anything prepared and you just wanted to go on this tangent about
first of all, you're a damn lie about my preparation, madam. I prepare very well for every topic that we will potentially cover. Sometimes we don't get to all the topics. Sounds like to me you're not prepared. I'm giving you free reign to say whatever you want to say and debate me on that topic. Go.
That's fine. If you didn't prepare, we can keep talking about
what the hell are you talking about? Didn't prepare. I'm telling you, say whatever you want to say about the LGBTQ community, and I will debate you right here on my show.
I came here to see what you wanted to talk about in relation to that topic. Did I not?
It's right here. It's the topic that's in front of you. What are your thoughts about the rights of the LGBTQ community? I believe they should have just as much access and rights as anybody else.
I do too. If that's your question, then there's no debate there. Then that's great.
Ma'am, I'm sure there's something you disagree with me on. I don't know you that well. Tell me something. Listen, sounds like this is what you want to debate. I'm giving you the opportunity to bring it to the forefront. Go.
Your question is if I think.
Man, we got 2 minutes.
LGBT. Correct. Your question is if I think people in the LGBT community should have rights. The answer is yes.
Should have all of the rights as anyone else.
Yes.
Okay. There's no debate there with me.
Then there's
you got something you want to debate me about?
No, I was just curious because you guys had told me we were going to debate about that.
Ma'am, what's your debate about it?
I guess there is none. That's my apologies. I must have been confused because that's what I was told.
Okay, you're being a silly Billy, but I do appreciate you being on the show. Okay,
thank you,
ma'am. Have a good day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, just remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of this planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.